Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 721 through 740 of the previous episode. Mei Gongzi easily defeats all three of her opponents during her evaluation at the Ancestral Court and proceeds to successfully persuade the Demon Emperors. Although the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor opposes her, Tang San ensures she gains 6 votes by exploiting his previous favor with the Sword Saint Demon Emperor and threatening the Tenebrous Demon Emperor into swearing an oath. The final vote is surprisingly secured by the omnipotent Crystal Demon Emperor, who appears to have a close connection with Tang San. Tang San then seizes the opportunity to cross his own tribulation within the Hell Garden, knowing the emperors will try to disperse the terrifying 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing calamity in order to protect the Ancestral Court. When the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor enters to stop him, he is confronted by the Crystal Demon Emperor. If you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 721. Although the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was practically fearless in front of other emperors due to his control over fortune, especially within his own sacred mountain, the Crystal Demon Emperor was an exception. This was why he had always remained behind her in rank. The Crystal Demon Emperor's replication ability rendered her immune to the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's control over fortune. While she couldn't control fortune the way he did, she could isolate herself from it. When she replicated his bloodline power, no matter what he did, it would simply not work on her, and he had no fighting power whatsoever. On the other hand, the Crystal Demon Emperor could simultaneously replicate another couple of bloodlines so she could do whatever she wanted. Among all the emperors, only she had the power to kill the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. This was why his expression changed upon seeing her. She was the one opponent he actually feared facing. A rumble echoed through the Hell Garden, clearly indicating that another wave of tribulation lightning had arrived. This time it seemed that the atmosphere here had been directly affected. The emperors outside hadn't been able to completely block it. The Crystal Demon Emperor halted, her gaze burning as she looked at the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. She said calmly, "If you don't want to die, stay here quietly and transfer your fortune to me. Allow my successor to succeed in this tribulation. Only if he succeeds can this place survive. You were right about one thing. I don't want to see the Ancestral Court destroyed. But I must borrow your fortune to help with the tribulation. This is my only chance to extend my life. If you try to stop me again, then before I die, I will ensure you die first, and the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain will be utterly annihilated." The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression changed repeatedly. He couldn't ignore the Crystal Demon Emperor's threat. Even though he wasn't sure if she was at her full strength, he couldn't afford to gamble on it. When he first rose to fame, the Crystal Demon Emperor had already been an emperor for millennia. He had witnessed firsthand the grace and power of this foremost emperor of the era, a time that was entirely hers. All the emperors had to bow their heads before her, regardless of race. No one had the strength to contend with the Crystal Demon Emperor. It could be said that she almost single-handedly unified the demon and nymph clans, and it was only afterward that the Ancestral Court issued a decree ending the wars between demons and nymphs, maintaining peace. In the history of the demon continent, only 3 emperors had reached this level, and the Crystal Demon Emperor was considered the strongest of all. This was why, when she appeared at the Ancestral Court Council, none of the other emperors dared to oppose her decisions. The Crystal Demon Emperor no longer paid him any attention but turned away, merging back into the golden light emanating from the heavenly bloom. She disappeared from the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's sight, but her presence lingered, leaving him with the faint feeling that a strand of her divine consciousness was still locked onto him. On the heavenly bloom, Tang San watched the Crystal Demon Emperor approach him, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. The Crystal Demon Emperor was beginning to change as she walked toward him. Her body and face gradually transformed, turning into the appearance of a little girl, Crystalline. A crystal mirror shattered in Crystalline's hand. The aura and divine consciousness fluctuations of the Crystal Demon Emperor that had appeared earlier had all been sealed within the crystal mirror. Now, Crystalline's cultivation was at most at the peak of the 9th tier, just like Tang San. If Tang San hadn't done it on purpose, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor wouldn't have been able to enter here at all. Mei Gongzi wouldn't have been able to so easily break through the spatial distortions created by the space-time lighthouse. Tang San had two reasons for luring the celestial fox demon emperor here. One was to bring Mei Gongzi to his side, under his protection. Another was that when the major tribulation arrived, the celestial fox demon emperor's first priority would be to protect this hell garden. If the hell garden was destroyed, there would no longer be anything to lock the fortune of the celestial fox sacred mountain, and the fortune the celestial fox clan had gathered over countless years would disperse. This would be an absolute catastrophe for both the celestial fox clan and the ancestral court. So no matter what, the celestial fox demon emperor would protect this place. With him guarding the hell garden, Tang San wouldn't have to worry about it, and could fully focus on overcoming the tribulation. In fact, at least for now, Tang San didn't want the hell garden to be destroyed either. If the fortune of the ancestral court were to change so rapidly, the entire demon continent would suffer from a backlash, leading to countless disasters. And since most humans still lived on the demon continent, this would also spell disaster for humanity. The dozen or so emperors would certainly seek revenge against him in a frenzy, and even if he attained godhood, he wouldn't be able to withstand the combined might of so many emperors. Therefore, the most important thing right now was to successfully overcome the tribulation and help Mei Gongzi become the Lord of Kali City, so that he could have the time and resources to prepare to truly contend with the demon and nymph clans in the future. Crystalline's role was not something Tang San had initially planned. It was a move that resulted from his negotiations with the Crystal Demon Emperor, where they reached an agreement. Crystalline could essentially be considered the reincarnated form of the Crystal Demon Emperor. Now that she was integrated into Tang San's body, their fates were intertwined. Either they both succeeded together, or they both perished. If Tang San failed in his tribulation and was annihilated, the Crystal Demon Emperor would die as well. This was something she hadn't anticipated when she initially chose him. At that time, the Crystal Demon Emperor merely saw him as a suitable vessel, someone who could serve as a source for her to regain new life by leveraging his physique, bloodline power, and spiritual power. In essence, she had planned to use Tang San as a cocoon from which she could eventually emerge as a butterfly. When the Crystal Demon Emperor was in her dragon egg state, she had truly fallen into a deep slumber. So when she first emerged and called Tang San daddy, it wasn't intentional. Her intelligence hadn't fully awakened at that time. But as time passed, her intelligence recovered, and she began to regain her original memories. Thus, she continued to sleep within Tang San, drawing nourishment from him. However, what she never expected was that Tang San's foundation was far deeper than she had imagined. The more she sensed his transformations, especially when Tang San successfully created a transcendent bloodline, the more she realized that everything was slipping out of her control. What surprised her even more was that Tang San had seen through her identity. Despite her efforts to remain low profile by staying in a dormant state, Tang San had still managed to discern much of the truth. Therefore, she had no choice but to cooperate with Tang San. Tang San had also made promises to her. But no matter what the future held, they first had to survive the impending tribulation. Through this tribulation, she would transform together with Tang San, allowing her to reclaim more of her power. Being an emperor for 3,000 years, her foundation was still incredibly deep. Thus, her biggest worry now was whether they could survive this tribulation. Back in the endless blue sea, she had already experienced the terror of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation alongside Tang San. At that time, she realized that no living being could withstand it. Even emperors might not survive such a tribulation. From that moment, she dared not continue her slumber and instead remained alert, listening to the strategies Tang San and Mei Gongzi discussed. It was during this time that Tang San's divine consciousness detected a flaw in her cover. After hearing Tang San's plan, she felt there was a slight chance of success, so how could she not actively cooperate with Tang San? She even felt somewhat expectant. After all, the more terrifying the tribulation, the greater the benefits would be once it was successfully crossed. Crystalline walked to Tang San's side, sat down cross-legged beside him, and gently nodded to him. Tang San squinted his eyes slightly. He slowly floated up, and he stood at the center of the heavenly bloom. He took a deep breath and his aura surged. After the recent integration, the 9 bloodlines within him had reached a perfectly balanced state. His being began to ascend rapidly. The golden trident's light pattern reappeared on his forehead, and at this moment Tang San's aura began to transform. His divine consciousness fused with the golden trident's seed of intent, and as he sensed the aura of the sea god's trident somewhere far away, his eyes became increasingly bright. Waves of sound like sacred chanting arose around him, and intense light quickly surged, casting a massive golden shadow behind him. In an instant, Tang San's gaze became sharp as lightning, and he stared into the sky. Suddenly, a loud boom erupted from the heavenly bloom, and a massive golden light pillar shot up into the sky, piercing the clouds. Not far away, the celestial fox demon emperor felt an earth-shattering will erupt, causing the entire hell garden to tremble violently. The flowers began to wither rapidly, and all the fortune seemed to be converging toward the golden light pillar. His expression changed drastically, and he did not dare to be negligent. With a shake of his arms, he revealed his true form, transforming into a 9-tailed celestial fox over 100 meters tall, with each tail extending more than 300 meters. The 9 tails spread across the sky. He emitted a large amount of fortune into the Hell Garden, stabilizing the plane. The Hell Garden could not be allowed to shatter. Otherwise, it would be a catastrophic disaster for the Celestial Fox clan. At the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, the golden light, which had originally subsided, suddenly intensified again. Moreover, the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain itself began to emit white light, but the white light seemed to collapse inward, pouring into the mountain's core. A golden light pillar shot up into the sky without any warning, instantly piercing the heavens. The emperors, who had just resisted another wave of lightning, almost instinctively scattered. In the next moment, the golden light pillar had already penetrated the tribulation clouds. The pitch-black tribulation clouds were instantly illuminated, turning into dark gold clouds. At that moment, all the purple vanished, replaced by a deep golden color. The golden lightning, filled with the fury of the entire plain, surged and roared madly, as if the apocalypse was about to descend. "Contingency plan!" shouted the sun-born nymph emperor without hesitation. It was evident that the celestial fox demon emperor had not resolved the issue and had not even emerged himself. Now the only option was to guide the tribulation, specifically targeting the entity undergoing the tribulation beneath the celestial fox sacred mountain. This was far better than having the ancestral court destroyed. In an instant, more than a dozen emperors quickly formed a circle, each infusing their formidable power into the sky, creating a ring. Massive golden lightning descended from the sky, carrying a world-ending momentum as it crashed down. Each of the emperors radiated a unique light, and their terrifying auras intertwined, surrounding the golden lightning within a defined range. They then compressed it inward, finally transforming it into a golden light pillar as thick as a water barrel, which shot straight toward the golden light rising from the celestial fox sacred mountain. On the heavenly bloom, Tang San's expression turned solemn. His spiritual power was being converted into divine consciousness at breakneck speed. He could clearly sense the changes in the tribulation. The initial tribulations had been blocked by the emperors outside, but this golden lightning tribulation was the most powerful tribulation in existence. This lightning could not be resisted even by emperors. Could he withstand it? The answer was, of course, no. The plane wanted to annihilate him with a single strike, giving him no chance at all. But at that moment, in front of Tang San, black and white halos flickered, and black and white rotated as yin-yang energy surged. The translucent blue-silver emperor emerged from the yin-yang energy. On its leaves, a droplet of chaos energy gently swayed. Tang San raised his hand and flicked it, and the drop of chaos energy immediately ascended into the air, drifting above his head. When the celestial fox demon emperor sensed that the lightning had pierced through space and directly descended, despair immediately filled his eyes. He had no idea what the crystal demon emperor had done to provoke such a violent tribulation from the plane, but the strength of the Hell Garden, even with his protection, would be unable to withstand such a tribulation. In this crisis, all he could do was use his fortune power to protect himself and Mei Gongzi, who was standing beside him, mouth agape. He stared wide-eyed, watching how the crystal demon emperor would respond. His only hope now was that the crystal demon emperor would not seek death without reason. The longer beings like them had lived, the more they feared death. Terrifying lightning descended from the sky, and the violent roar made the heavens and earth tremble. However, just as the massive golden lightning pillar reached 100 meters above the heavenly bloom, a strange scene suddenly occurred. The enormous golden light pillar unexpectedly stalled momentarily, and the previously world-ending aura abruptly halted. It felt like a mother disciplining her child, raising her hand high to strike hard, but softening the blow as it neared the child's bottom. Then the vast sky of lightning suddenly exploded, shattering into countless fine golden sparks that descended from the heavens, sweeping downward. Tang San's body instantly erupted with dazzling golden light as the golden armor transformation took over. With the augmentation of yin-yang energy, it was protecting him like never before. Countless electric sparks instantly coiled around him, causing his entire body to tremble violently. Even though the lightning of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation had shattered, its destructive power was still terrifying. Tang San had pushed his blood and qi to their limits, yet he could still clearly feel the excruciating pain tearing through his body and divine consciousness. His facial muscles twisted from the pain, but at this moment, his gaze remained resolute. Crystalline was right beside him and could clearly see the changes in Tang San's body. Actually, she was merely a projection. The real Crystalline was still within Tang San, part of the imprint in his dantian. From there, she could also feel the intense pain brought by the terrifying lightning. Even she felt as though she might collapse from it, yet Tang San endured it. She also clearly saw that the transparent water-like droplet was quietly suspended in the air. The terrifying lightning from earlier had disintegrated because it had reached close to this drop of chaos energy. Chaos energy was the original essence produced when a plane was born. If this essence were destroyed, it would destabilize the very foundation of the plane. No matter how much Phelan Planet's planar ruler hated Tang San and wanted to annihilate him, it would never want to destroy its own chaos energy. Even though this drop of chaos energy now belonged to Tang San, as long as he remained on this plane on this planet, the significance of the chaos energy still persisted. This was why Tang San had been so determined to find a way to condense the yin-yang energy after discovering it. Forming this transcendent bloodline was essential. Without this drop of chaos energy, he would have had no chance of crossing the tribulation. A faint smile appeared on Tang San's face, and a determined glint shone in his eyes. The pain on his body gradually faded away like flowing water, while the armor formed by the golden armor transformation scattered into the air like gold dust. The 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation was indeed terrifying, a force capable of annihilating everything. Even a transcendent bloodline could not withstand it, and could only shatter under its terrifying power. However, in the end he withstood this strike. Only the armor had been destroyed, and once more every single hair on Tang San's body, after painstakingly growing his hair for 8 months, he was again completely bald, with countless charred and cracked marks crisscrossing his skin, as if his body might completely shatter in the next moment. But at the same time, a faint golden halo emanated from within. The sea god's shadow, which had shattered when the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation descended, was now recondensing, and it was even more solid than before. Just one baptism of lightning made Tang San feel as if he had been reborn. In his sea of consciousness, no spiritual power existed, only divine consciousness remained. Even his connection with the sea god trident seemed to have become clearer. He didn't have to endure it with his body. There were other ways to resist to some extent, but he chose to directly accept the tribulation's baptism because he wanted to undergo his transformation as quickly as possible. The earlier the transformation, the more prepared he would be to withstand the upcoming lightning. Crystalline's form, after being illusory, solidified once again. The intense pain twisted her face, but she could clearly feel the drastic changes happening within Tang San. The originally furnace-like fluctuations of his internal energy and physical vitality began to collapse inward at this moment, as if a black hole had formed within his body. It was devouring not only the remaining power of the lightning tribulation, but also the fortune within the Hell Garden. A transformation, a complete transformation. This is unprecedented. This guy is really... At this moment, Crystalline couldn't help but recall Tang San's promise to her. Your Majesty, do you know that the ceiling of this plane is far too low? Your lifespan is nearing its end. Once I succeed in crossing the tribulation, I believe you'll want to find a way to take over me fully, but that won't benefit you at all. Even if you regain the position of Crystal Demon Emperor, you still won't escape this plane's constraints. The only way is to cooperate with me, and do so in earnest. I do not belong to this plane, and when I regain my former strength I will choose to leave. At that time, because of my power, you too will break through your limits and be rejected by this plane. I can take you back to my divine realm, where you will truly be immortal and unbound by any restriction. This is my promise to you, but the choice is yours. If you insist on competing with me and trying to take over my body, then you can give it a try. But all of this will have to wait until we successfully cross the tribulation. I believe after the tribulation, you won't have such thoughts anymore. His words still echoed in her mind, and at this moment, the Crystal Demon Emperor finally began to understand what he meant. He had been telling her that once she truly felt his strength, she would abandon any thoughts of opposing him. This guy was really confident in himself, but he had a solid foundation to back it up. The Crystal Demon Emperor had lived for 3,000 years, and even though she was no longer an emperor per se, she still had the mindset of one. Yet when facing Tang San, she simply could not feel superior. Meanwhile, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, who had been terrified when the lightning first descended, finally breathed a sigh of relief. The Hell Garden was intact. After the terrifying lightning shattered, the most destructive force had actually dissipated, and the remaining power had all flowed into the heavenly bloom. He didn't know what had happened inside the heavenly bloom, but at least the lightning's power was gradually fading. Although it caused some disturbance in the Hell Garden, it hadn't destroyed it. It seemed that the Crystal Demon Emperor ultimately didn't want to destroy the Hell Garden. As long as she didn't intentionally destroy it, there was still a chance for everything to be okay. But just as this thought crossed his mind, there was another loud rumble from outside. The tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to have been further enraged. The blinding golden light that erupted in that instant was like the sun descending over the ancestral court, causing all the emperors to be shocked and horrified. Just now, such a powerful lightning strike had descended, yet there was no explosion within the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. It seemed as though the lightning had been swallowed. They were still puzzled, but in the next moment, even more terrifying lightning descended again, crashing down madly. The emperors had to refocus, quickly joining forces once more to concentrate the lightning toward the center and guide it down toward the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Hee, you guys can handle it, right? Then keep going. This was another reason Tang San had chosen to undergo the tribulation here. He wanted to leverage the power of the emperors. In another place, even though he had chaos energy protecting him, the relentless lightning attacks would be overwhelming. With only a single drop of chaos energy, it couldn't protect him entirely. If hit directly by the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation, he would be reduced to ashes in an instant. But here, as the emperors gathered the lightning, they effectively helped neutralize part of the tribulation's malevolent energy. And although the lightning's power was actually greater due to being concentrated in a smaller area, its attack range was limited to the area above his head, maximizing the effectiveness of the chaos energy. This allowed Tang San to respond more calmly. A brighter golden lightning bolt descended from the sky, once again targeting the area above Tang San's head. The chaos energy's effect was still in play. As long as it was a force belonging to Phelan Planet's plane, it would never attack the chaos energy. This was the rule, a subconscious principle. The so-called planar ruler was nothing more than the entire plane's consciousness. It was very rarely a separate being with a concrete form. This consciousness sought to avoid harm and pursue benefit for the plane itself, so how could it strike the plane's very foundations? The lightning stalled once more, then quickly disintegrated, turning into countless tiny electric sparks that rained down on Tang San again. This time, the golden armor transformation could no longer form. The armor that had just collapsed left the bloodline imprint of the golden armor transformation absorbing the lightning's power, and it had fallen silent. But at this moment, the least conspicuous of Tang San's 9 imprints suddenly lit up. Everything around him suddenly slowed down. The tiny bolts of lightning, like countless golden threads, froze in place around Tang San's body. Chronocroc transformation. Yes, it was the Chronocroc transformation, the power of the Chronocroc bloodline. It was the only second-tier bloodline Tang San possessed, which made it seem lackluster in comparison. But at this moment, this lackluster imprint was taking center stage. Because what it was activating and fusing with was Tang San's divine artifact, the Space-Time Lighthouse. The Chrono-Croc transformation imprint merged with the aura of the Space-Time Lighthouse, controlling the changes in time and space. The powerful lightning bolts transformed into tiny strands, slowly piercing into Tang San's body bit by bit. It was clearly visible that each time a lightning bolt entered Tang San's body, his skin would brighten and he would shiver violently. Then his flesh would be charred, and his skin would crack apart. The next moment, his body's powerful healing ability would fix the damage, only to fix it again after a few moments. Under the control of the Chrono-Croc transformation, the lightning continued to strike him bit by bit. At the same time, his healing ability, greatly accelerated by the Chrono-Croc transformation, continuously repaired his body. Through this cycle of destruction and restoration, he endured the tribulation's baptism. The changes unfolding were nothing short of strange and spectacular. Tang San showcased the Space-Time Lighthouse's control over time and space to the utmost. This alone provided immense benefit to the observing Crystal Demon Emperor. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor and Mei Gongzi also sensed the strange changes. In their perception, everything on the heavenly bloom seemed to slow down, yet everything outside remained normal. The slow passage of time on the heavenly bloom and the normal flow of time outside seemed to blend together. Clearly, everything was happening literally at lightning speed. Yet on the heavenly bloom, it felt as if time had slowed down to a crawl, and space was vibrating. This space-time shift gave them a feeling that was both extremely unsettling, yet oddly congruous. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression changed slightly. He was certain that the one undergoing the tribulation wasn't the Crystal Demon Emperor, because the aura didn't match. So it really was her successor? And in that case, since when was the Crystal Demon Emperor capable of creating such a strange spatiotemporal phenomenon? He had known the Crystal Demon Emperor for over 1,000 years and had studied her abilities in depth, so he was well aware of the limitations of her powers. Although she could replicate nearly all abilities, there were some things that remained off-limits. For example, the ability to control fortune. She could block others from using it on her, but she couldn't truly master it. The same applied to the abilities involving the fundamental truths of the universe, such as time and space. She could control them to a certain extent, but it was merely copying them without truly grasping their essence. After all, even a dragon was only so powerful, and in spite of her title, she wasn't truly omnipotent. But this spatiotemporal phenomenon was clearly not something that could be achieved through simple replication. Could it be that, after so many years of seclusion, she had gained a deeper understanding and mastery of time and space? If that were the case, then she had truly changed. But what was the meaning behind her words? Could it be that the so-called successor she was supporting in this tribulation would resolve her lifespan problem after succeeding? Emperors like them began experimenting with various methods to extend their lifespans once they passed 1,000 years. But it was never an easy task. The previous Celestial Fox Demon Emperors were proof. As for the Crystal Demon Emperor, she had undoubtedly tried every possible method. Otherwise, how could she live for 3,000 years? So what was this tribulation about? Suddenly, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's pupils contracted as a hitherto unthinkable possibility crossed his mind. Rebirth? She wants to be reborn? Is she relying on this person undergoing the tribulation? That would be the only explanation for her actions. She helped her successor create a transcendent bloodline, and she's planning to take over their body after this tribulation, allowing her divine consciousness to survive in a new form. Damn, this tribulation might in fact be triggered by their very fusion. The plane would never allow that. A genius, she truly is a genius. No, this is definitely what she's doing. No wonder she didn't make a move against me earlier. She can't. Of course, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor wasn't assisting her with fortune power as the Crystal Demon Emperor had asked. He was merely watching coldly from the sidelines. He had figured it out by now, if his guess was correct. Then the Crystal Demon Emperor had been in a weakened state earlier, lacking real combat power but still managing to intimidate him. At this moment, he didn't dare to make a move, as the only thing keeping the tribulation at bay was whatever unknown method the entity on the heavenly bloom was using. If he intervened and disrupted the tribulation, the lightning would strike the Hell Garden, destroying it and triggering a chain reaction that would bring massive backlash to the entire Celestial Fox clan. At this moment, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor even felt a sense of admiration. The older, the wiser indeed. He had plotted for many years, yet compared to this Crystal Demon Emperor, he still had a lot to learn. If she truly succeeds, she might no longer be bound by the plane's restrictions. She may become an even more powerful being than she already was. Could she even be planning to establish a divine realm? Various chaotic thoughts flashed through the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's mind. Meanwhile, on the Heavenly Bloom, the one actually undergoing the tribulation was enduring an absolutely excruciating physical ordeal. Crystalline could even see Tang San's abdomen being torn open by a particularly powerful bolt of lightning, his internal organs shattered and charred, only to regenerate and heal. The process was slowed down, which made it easier for Tang San to recover, which also made it easier for Tang San to thoroughly experience every single moment of pain. But Tang San only showed occasional muscle twitches on his face, while his gaze remained unwavering. He kept looking in one direction, as if something there gave him the resolve to keep going. Finally, the last trace of lightning entered Tang San's body and vanished. He seemed to have undergone a complete process of destruction and reassembly, although because it had been broken down into many stages, his body had never fully disintegrated. This rebirth led him through yet another transformation, and he was, in the literal sense, an entirely different being now. A golden membrane now covered his entire body, and by this point, Tang San had completed the transformation from human to godhood. He had a divine physique. It had only taken 2 waves of lightning bolts, but these waves were such that no other being could have possibly withstood. It wasn't over. The 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation seemed to have only just truly begun. The lightning-filled clouds across the sky radiated golden light. The scene that had unfolded slowly on the Heavenly Bloom had passed quickly in the outside world. In just a moment, another massive wave of lightning bolts crashed down, only to be guided once again by the emperors into one massive stream. The droplet of chaos energy trembled slightly, shattering the terrifying lightning pillar once more. But this time, the lightning was even stronger than before. Even after it shattered, the lightning bolts, like crazed electric serpents, surged wildly toward Tang San. The golden membrane that had just formed on his skin was almost instantly evaporated. But at that very moment, portals of light appeared around Tang San's body, golden portals. The space-time lighthouse burst forth with dazzling silver light. If the previous moment had been centered around controlling time, then this time it was all about manipulating space. Countless spatial portals appeared, disappeared, and reappeared, using the power of space to divide the descending lightning into dozens of portions, each one piercing into Tang San's body in a staggered manner. Tang San's body was continuously destroyed and replenished. At this moment, the space-time lighthouse displayed its potent effect. The slowed time, completely desynchronized with the outside world, gave Tang San more time to dissolve the destructive force of the tribulation. Meanwhile, the space folds continuously divided the lightning, allowing him only to endure a portion at a time, making it easier to withstand the tribulation. Crystalline squinted her eyes, also feeling the pain from her own body, the imprint. She was filled with an overwhelming sense of incredulity. This guy, while crossing the tribulation, was like a master butcher dissecting an ox, able to manipulate the tribulation in so many ways. He's a genius, a true genius. His understanding of time and space far surpasses any being on this plane. What Peacock Demon Emperor? What Chrono Croc? He's the real deal. Crystalline was filled with genuine admiration. Tang San had already utilized the Golden Armor transformation, Peacock transformation, Chrono Croc transformation, and the Spacetime Lighthouse during the tribulation. Each time he had walked a fine line, enduring the tribulation's baptism and achieving transformation without suffering true devastation from the lightning. After enduring 3 lightning strikes, Tang San's aura began to change noticeably. The golden trident symbol on his forehead became increasingly brighter. The 4th strike came crashing down, giving him no chance to catch his breath. The tribulation clouds above the ancestral court did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, they grew stronger. The most terrifying aspect of the 9 heavens 10 earths, divine extinguishing tribulation, was that it would not cease until it achieved its goal. The lightning would not stop until Tang San was annihilated. This was the crushing force of the entire plane. The golden lightning descended once again, and upon sensing the chaos energy, the tribulation's hostility toward Tang San intensified. Only by destroying him could the chaos energy return to the plane's core. This time, the destructive aura of the lightning was even more terrifying, as if thousands of gigantic electric serpents were rampaging. Even the space-time lighthouse's control over time seemed to be failing. The lightning was just too fast and too powerful. The spatial barriers weakened, and space itself began to shatter, which meant that the lightning could not be divided as effectively as before. Tang San's body was continuously broken and reformed, in a more brutal cycle than ever. But within him, yin-yang energy began to rotate, constantly tearing apart the destructive force of the tribulation. Only this primal energy from the dawn of the universe could counteract this world-ending power. As the yin-yang vortex rotated, the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor continuously provided Tang San with life energy, allowing him to repeatedly reconstruct his body. And thus, the fourth strike was overcome. After enduring the baptism of 4 waves of lightning, Tang San's body underwent another transformation. When the lightning tore through his skin this time, Crystalline vaguely saw that his muscles, bones, meridians, and even internal organs had begun to turn golden. Tang San's body seemed to be tempered by the tribulation, and each strike only furthered that transformation. The terrifying power of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation, instead of breaking him, seemed to be aiding him. What Crystalline didn't know was that the technique Tang San was using at this moment came from a sect in his previous life called the Body Sect, which specialized in physical cultivation. The highest level of this cultivation was known as the Immaculate Golden Body, and it was said that perfect mastery would make the user immortal. Of course, it was not true immortality, but even so, there was no doubt about it. The Immaculate Golden Body method was the single most formidable body cultivation method. The Body Sect's techniques were originally only effective below the God level, but with Tang San researching and developing them during his time as a God King, they had all been elevated to function for gods as well. The 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation was practically helping him refine and enhance himself to an unprecedented level, provided he could withstand the tribulation's destructive power and avoid death. At this moment, the twisted expression on Tang San's face seemed to ease, as if the pain had lessened, or perhaps he had gradually adapted to it. The 5th lightning strike followed closely, and this time, half of Tang San's body was directly shattered by the impact. At the critical moment, a red light flashed within Tang San's body as another bloodline imprint radiated light. This was the last bloodline imprint Tang San had integrated before the tribulation, his 9th bloodline imprint. Before ascending the Crystal Sacred Mountain, Tang San had visited 4 other sacred mountains. One was the Sword Saint Sacred Mountain of the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, and the following were the 2 sacred mountains of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and the Earthshade Nymph Emperor. So, what was the 4th? It was the immortal sacred mountain of the Eternal Inferno Undying Demon Emperor. Yes, the 9th bloodline imprint he integrated was from the immortal Flame Phoenix lineage. At this moment, as the red light surged, Tang San was enveloped in a cluster of crimson flames. He activated the immortal Flame Phoenix's innate ability, Rebirth from Fire True Immortality. Nirvana Rebirth was one of the strongest abilities even when considering the demon races as a whole. Though Tang San's body continued to be destroyed by the lightning, his regeneration ability, enhanced by Nirvana Rebirth, greatly accelerated his recovery. This was another of Tang San's trump cards. This bloodline imprint was something he had planned since long ago. Nothing could enhance his endurance more than Nirvana Rebirth. From the beginning, Tang San never believed he could completely withstand the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation. That was a fundamental impossibility. Well, unless he could persist until this tribulation raised his power back to the God King level, in which case even the full power of the plane wouldn't be able to handle him. But that was impossible. After all, no matter how many trump cards he had, they would eventually run out, and the process couldn't possibly enhance him that much. What he needed to do was to endure as much of the tribulation as possible. Although it was life-threatening at any moment, the more he endured and absorbed, the greater the benefits would be. Simply put, a single strike of lightning was equivalent to several years of arduous cultivation, and this was after reaching godhood. Moreover, the destruction attribute contained within the 9 heavens 10 earths, divine extinguishing tribulation, was comparable to the destruction force of a divine realm. This was a special attribute that only a god king could control. At this stage it was far more valuable than the power of Mei Gongxi's Golden Fiend Tribulation, and would become one of Tang San's ultimate trump cards in the future. After withstanding 5 lightning strikes, Tang San had successfully cultivated the Immaculate Golden Body. Relying on the Immaculate Golden Body and Nirvana Rebirth, he endured the 6th. But this time, except for his head, Tang San's entire body was almost completely obliterated by the lightning. Without Nirvana Rebirth, he would likely have truly died. This was a true risk, unlike anything he had ever experienced. This time, Tang San could not resurrect if he was actually killed. This was not just death, but death equivalent to being judged and executed by the heavens. If his body was completely obliterated, it would be a true death. There would be no coming back from it. After 6 lightning strikes, Tang San had already exhausted most of his trump cards. But at that moment the 7th strike descended, and it was even stronger than the previous ones. Above Tang San's head, a vertical eye slowly emerged. From the black and white pupil, a halo of black and white light shot out, enveloping Tang San below. This was the discerning eye of heaven, as Tang San's strongest bloodline. Imprint before acquiring a transcendent bloodline, the discerning eye of heaven had been finally raised to the peak of the 9th order after arriving in the Heaven Garden. Now it had evolved alongside him to the 10th order. A faint smile appeared on Tang San's face. Crystalline, watching from the side, found his smile utterly unbelievable. How could he be smiling at a time? At that moment, a lotus seed that had been beside Tang San suddenly rose into the air, and was absorbed by the discerning eye of heaven, merging into it. The 7th lightning strike descended, and after shattering before the droplet of chaos energy, it was immediately blocked by a black and white light. This black and white halo was of course Tang San's polar luck domain. While this domain couldn't fully block the tribulation, it acted like a filter, sifting the lightning. A strange scene unfolded. The lightning became much gentler after passing through the filter of the polar luck domain. A certain aura within the domain seemed to merge with the lightning, dulling its ferocity and making it seem hesitant, as if unsure of what to do. And thus the ferocious thunderbolt dispersed before falling upon Tang San. After enduring the baptism of 6 previous lightning strikes, Tang San's body had become extraordinarily resilient. Though he was still covered in wounds, his body didn't shatter this time, and it seemed he endured it with relative ease compared to the previous 2 strikes. However, after withstanding this lightning strike, the glow of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain dimmed slightly. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression changed dramatically as he shouted loudly, "Don't do that!" The Crystal Demon Emperor was utterly stunned at this moment. What is this guy doing? Being right next to Tang San, she could feel everything most acutely. What was Tang San doing? Inside the lotus seeds was the purest fortune of Phelan Planet, accumulated by the Celestial Fox clan over countless years, without any of the negative aspects. As Tang San used his discerning eye of heaven to control this fortune and block the lightning, the fortune seed struck by the lightning naturally merged into the tribulation and then dissipated into the world, essentially being reclaimed by the plane. What Tang San was doing now was tantamount to bribing the plane. That was why the last lightning strike had been so much gentler. It was as if the plane found his actions very agreeable. Is this even possible? When Tang San first arrived at the Heavenly Bloom, he had counted 18 lotus seeds in total. The reason he didn't do this earlier was to avoid pushing the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor into a corner. He also wanted his body to endure the lightning properly. How could it reach the apex otherwise? But as his body was reaching its limit, this tactic had to be used. The tribulation was indeed much easier to withstand after the bribe. Of course, the tribulation's intent to destroy Tang San hadn't changed, but such a bribe of fortune was undoubtedly welcomed by the plane. As the Crystal Demon Emperor had said before, the Celestial Fox clan's continuous accumulation of fortune on the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain was certainly beneficial for the Demon and Nymph clans and the Demon continent, but it was very detrimental to the balance of the entire plane. Returning some of this fortune, especially in such a pure form, was naturally something the plane favored. At this point, The lightning had become terrifyingly powerful, and the celestial fox demon emperor couldn't stop it even if he wanted to. If he tried to stop Tang San from undergoing the tribulation, the lightning would still descend and destroy the entire heavenly bloom instead, which would be far worse than losing a single lotus seed. The 8th lightning strike descended, and the emperors outside suddenly had a strange feeling. The lightning that fell from the sky was now naturally converging toward the center, requiring less effort from them to compress it inward. Moreover, since it didn't clash against them, its power was whole and unadulterated. It was almost as if the tribulation was conscious. By now the emperors were almost numb. They couldn't imagine what kind of situation could attract such a tribulation, and didn't even believe any creature could survive this. After all, if over a dozen emperors couldn't, then who could? As the 8th lightning strike descended, Tang San, without hesitation, once again used the discerning eye of heaven to absorb a lotus seed, causing it to shatter and return its fortune to the plane. As expected, it worked again. The lightning became gentler as it shattered, and even the space-time lighthouse's control over time and space seemed to regain effectiveness, making it much easier for Tang San to endure the strike. Crystalline watched in stunned disbelief. Is the tribulation actually encouraging him to continue doing this? Could this really be happening? But all these changes were within Tang San's expectations. From then on, whenever a terrifying lightning strike descended, Tang San would shatter a lotus seed to return its fortune. Although each strike was stronger than the last, it seemed as if the tribulation itself was finding ways to make it bearable for Tang San. He endured them one after another, but as the fortune returned to the plane, the celestial fox sacred mountain outside began to shrink, even collapsing in on itself. Those 18 lotus seeds were the very foundation of the celestial fox clan. The celestial fox demon emperor tried to intervene, but whenever he attempted to, the lightning that was originally aimed at Tang San showed signs of shifting toward him instead. This made him hesitate. If he was struck, he was dead, simple as that. By the time the 16th lightning strike descended, the entire Hell Garden was bathed in the golden light of the dissipated lightning. Terrifying bolts of lightning crashed down on Tang San one after another. At this point, Tang San's entire body had turned into a translucent gold, and with each strike of the lightning, his divine consciousness would be elevated further. After enduring 16 strikes of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation, Tang San's cultivation had reached the peak of the Demon King level. His aura had become extraordinarily terrifying, but the price he paid was 9 fortune lotus seeds. A single lotus seed required the celestial fox demon emperor to draw upon the plane's fortune for 50 years once, condensing it into pure fortune while neutralizing any misfortune. Even when the celestial fox demon emperor cultivated, he only used the lotus seeds to assist. He would not directly absorb them. 18 seeds was the limit of what he could produce without causing an outright disaster. Yet, Tang San had returned nearly 5 centuries of the celestial fox demon emperor's efforts to the plane in practically 5 minutes, at the same time bringing his own cultivation from the brink of entering godhood to the peak of the 10th order. The celestial fox demon emperor outside was coughing up blood in frustration. The 17th lightning strike arrived. The terrifying lightning, crackling like fangs and claws, filled the Hell Garden almost instantly. Although it once more broke apart upon encountering the chaos energy, the remaining golden bolts of lightning were far more terrifying than the first strike Tang San had endured. Yet these bolts did not immediately strike Tang San. They seemed to be waiting for something. What they were waiting for, of course, was for Tang San to release more fortune, allowing it to return to the plane. But this time, Tang San didn't shatter another fortune lotus seed. Instead, he made a grasping motion with his right hand, and golden light burst forth from his forehead. The sea god's trident rune emitted an incredibly brilliant radiance, and under this indescribable aura of divinity, Tang San seemed to grow infinitely tall and imposing. Crystalline's projection had remained by Tang San's side the entire time, witnessing the entire tribulation process. Seeing Tang San undergo transformation after transformation under the relentless baptism of the tribulation, her heart was filled with an indescribable shock. She herself was the most powerful emperor in history. When she had undergone her own tribulation, it had been a monumental event due to her extraordinary talent. But compared to the tribulation before her now, it seemed like child's play. Even when the first lightning strike descended, she could sense that it was far beyond what she could have withstood in the past, not to mention the increasingly terrifying strikes that followed. Throughout the entire process, Tang San maintained a remarkably steady demeanor. His determined gaze never wavered despite the increasing power of the tribulation. This alone filled Crystalline with awe. It was clear that he had been prepared for this, as if everything was unfolding exactly as he had anticipated. But could such a powerful and terrifying tribulation really be anticipated? What happened next continued to shatter her understanding. With each lightning strike, Tang San revealed yet another method to counter it. From the initial golden armor transformation to the combination of the space-time lighthouse and chrono-croc transformation, then the addition of the peacock transformation and the absorption of yin-yang energy. The strangest of all was that single drop of chaos energy. Without it, even an army of Tang Sans would have been struck dead by the overwhelming power of the heavens. Yet, he was so resilient, enduring the terrifying tribulation repeatedly and surviving its relentless onslaught. What puzzled her even more was that Tang San didn't directly absorb the pure fortune from the lotus seeds. Instead, he handed this fortune to the tribulation, allowing it to dissipate within the lightning. Although Tang San would absorb some of the fortune infused into the lightning, it was undoubtedly far less effective than if he had absorbed it directly. Crystalline believed that if Tang San had absorbed the fortune directly, the sudden surge of luck would likely have helped him withstand the tribulation. But he hadn't done that. He had returned the fortune to the plane, making the tribulation's attitude toward him seem ambiguous. Why? 1. This was originally 100 years, but we changed it to account for the fact that the Hell Garden did not exist during the reign of the previous Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, which means the current one has created everything by himself, and condensing 18 seeds would require 1800 years, which he did not have. But through this method, Tang San continued to withstand the tribulation's onslaught, continuously absorbing the power within the increasingly potent lightning to strengthen himself. His body was visibly growing stronger, and under the tempering of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation, his divine consciousness was also becoming more and more terrifying. His internal energy cultivation was also rapidly increasing. No one knew how he managed it, but he could absorb the most refined essence of the tribulation's power into his body, simultaneously enhancing all of his abilities, including Crystalline's imprint. This imprint could only absorb a portion of the overall benefits, but even this small part led to a transformation that made Crystalline far surpass her own state when she underwent her tribulation. Her cultivation was not in any way higher than 3,000 years ago, but the extent to which the tribulation tempered her body and the potential it granted her were far more valuable. Tang San focused more on using the tribulation to temper himself in this way rather than purely increasing his cultivation. Otherwise, he would have easily surpassed the peak of the 10th order and reached the 11th order by now. However, although he was continuously growing stronger, the tribulation was becoming more powerful at an even faster rate. The emperors outside were already struggling to withstand the terrifying might of the heavens, to the point where the entire Hell Garden was covered by the fearsome tribulation. At this point, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor didn't even dare to consider influencing Tang San's tribulation. He had to lie low and stay extremely cautious even just to protect himself. The tribulation, filled with the power of the entire plane, seemed to carry a threatening and malevolent intent, but as long as Tang San continued using the fortune lotus seeds to buy time, the tribulation wasn't in a hurry to destroy him. But the fortune lotus seeds were finite. There were only 18 in total, and once they were all used up, it would mean that all of the ancestral court's fortune had been dispersed. At that point, Tang San would surely be overwhelmed by the tribulation. Using the fortune lotus seeds to feed the tribulation was akin to drinking poison to quench his thirst. Crystalline's heart was filled with anxiety, but there was nothing she could do. All she could do was watch as Tang San continued to resist. The only thing that gave her some comfort was Tang San's unperturbed demeanor. From start to finish, he never showed any signs of panic. He continued to undergo the tribulation methodically, as if everything was still under control. At this very moment, after using 9 fortune lotus seeds, Tang San suddenly stopped without activating another one, causing Crystalline's heart to leap into her throat. What was he doing? Was he planning to die? At that moment, the golden trident rune on Tang San's forehead began to shine with dazzling brilliance. Even the golden lightning of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation couldn't overshadow the light of the sea god's trident. The sea god's shadow behind Tang San solidified and instantly merged with his body. A golden armor, countless times more magnificent than the golden armor transformation, instantly covered his entire body. Long water blue hair grew from his head, cascading down to his waist. An indescribable divine aura followed. Tang San made a grasping motion with his right hand, and the dazzling golden sea god's trident appeared in his grasp. At the same time, a layer of azure light burst forth from the center of his forehead, completely enveloping his body. The raging lightning swept in, but as it touched the azure light shield, it shattered into tiny sparks that slowly infiltrated, with most being blocked outside. The azure shield acted like a filter, screening the lightning and allowing Tang San to absorb it. Vast sea cosmic shroud. In Tang San's hand, the sea god's trident now appeared indistinguishable from a real object. The prongs of the trident traced out faint circles of light, each circle seemingly aligned with the principles of heaven and earth, causing the world to tremble as they expanded outward. The surrounding lightning seemed to be affected by these circles of light and began to vibrate. Thousands of lightning bolts continuously shattered and merged, and circles of energy formed around Tang San like black holes, endlessly devouring the lightning. Meanwhile, the sea god armor on his body grew ever brighter, shining like a small sun. Crystalline stared in shock at the scene before her, unable to believe that Tang San could actually dispel such a tribulation with his own power. Had he always been able to do this? No, that couldn't be right. He must have gained this ability after his strength increased. What was that divine technique? And what were the divine weapon in his hand and the armor on his body? This was already beyond the scope of Crystalline's understanding. Though he was still at the 10th order, the aura he now exuded and his unique qualities had already surpassed what this crystal demon emperor could comprehend. This must be his true power, or rather the power of his past life. He can finally wield some of his past life's power. No wonder he's so calm and composed. This tribulation is terrifying, but for him, it's an opportunity like no other. However, Crystalline also noticed that Tang San's resistance wasn't without cost. Cracks were gradually appearing on both his armor and the golden sea god's trident in his hand, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for him to move under the destructive force of the lightning. Yet, despite this, Tang San's gaze remained unwavering, just as determined as ever. The light within the Hell Garden gradually returned to normal, as the massive lightning that accumulated earlier was slowly dispelled by Tang San's golden trident and armor. However, in the high skies outside, the tribulation clouds showed no signs of dispersing, nor did they immediately continue the assault. Instead, the clouds churned as if they were gathering strength. After so many continuous eruptions, even the plane's wrath, with each attack growing stronger, now needed a brief respite. Only by accumulating power greater than the last strike could it destroy Tang San. Tang San finally had a moment to catch his breath. 17 strikes of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation had been forcibly withstood, and he had nearly played all his cards. But the tribulation wasn't over yet. How would he resist the next strike? Crystalline looked at Tang San, and now there was even a trace of admiration in her eyes. She was certain that no other being could withstand such a terrifying tribulation. In fact, the Emperor's present couldn't even withstand it now, much less when they were at the 9th order. Even she or the undying demon emperor with his nirvana rebirth would likely have been annihilated after 2 or 3 lightning strikes. But this guy had used every ability at his disposal to withstand 17 strikes. If he survived, there was no doubt he would become the foremost figure on Phelan Planet. Even though he was still at the peak of the 10th order, Crystalline already viewed him as an emperor. The more she understood, the more she realized how powerful Tang San truly was. Tang San took a deep breath, steadying himself. At this moment, the situation was far more severe than just the cracks appearing on the surface of the sea god's armor and sea god's trident. The power of the sea god was borrowed. It was not his true form. He was simply using his divine consciousness to materialize some of the power of his divine artifacts, and the cracks on them meant that his very sea of consciousness had taken damage. The destructive nature of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation was terrifying beyond measure. It was the opposite of existence in the most literal sense, the most primal force of annihilation in the universe. Continuing to withstand the tribulation, though it tempered his body, the destruction was also steadily accumulating, reaching a point where it could explode and take his life at any moment. It was almost time. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. Tang San suddenly turned his head. For the first time during the tribulation, his gaze fell on Crystalline. With a grin, Tang San's lips moved. Though no sound came out, Crystalline could hear his thoughts within her divine consciousness. Next, I'll be relying on you. Me. Crystalline's eyes widened instantly and she blurted out, "No, Dad, I can't." Tang San's lips twitched slightly. "No, you can." Before Crystalline could say more, golden light erupted from Tang San's eyes. At the same time, Crystalline felt herself transform into a beam of crystalline light, falling into Tang San's hand. Crystalline light covered the surface of Tang San's armor, and the aura that once belonged to the Crystal Demon Emperor burst forth. Even though she was a separate living entity, she was technically one of Tang San's 9 imprints, of her own will. And as such, Crystalline had naturally accompanied him through the tribulation and transformation, and had returned to godhood herself. According to the Crystal Demon Emperor's original plan, after completing the tribulation, she would rapidly recover using her profound foundation and attempt to devour Tang San's physique, bloodline power and spirit, making herself stronger and regaining a long lifespan. But now she understood that it was simply impossible. If he truly succeeded in the tribulation, then she'd be lucky if he didn't devour her power instead. With the yin-yang energy enveloping and influencing her, it seemed she could no longer even separate from him unless he allowed it. Even the Crystal Demon Emperor herself couldn't tell if she had gained nothing from her plan, or if she had simply been unlucky. Now Tang San was asking her to resist the tribulation? How could she not be shocked? But indeed, the other bloodline imprints had almost all been used. It was her turn, but could she do anything? The next lightning strike was bound to be stronger than all previous ones. Tang San's lips curled upward as the trident in his hand became solid once again, the cracks on it disappearing. He turned his head and glanced outside the heavenly bloom, looking toward the direction of the celestial fox demon emperor. Mei Gongzi was there, within the divine consciousness defense set up by the celestial fox demon emperor. "Hey Crystalline. Look, the tribulation hasn't come yet. So how about we go over there? We can't just keep getting struck. Shouldn't we go on the offensive?" Before the Crystalline could react, Tang San leaped into the air. A pair of massive golden wings unfolded behind him as he activated the Dragon Rock transformation. Surrounded by golden light and lingering destructive lightning, he shot straight into the sky like a golden beam, heading toward the heavens. With the activation of the Peacock transformation, Tang San shot out of the Hell Garden and the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, almost instantly arriving in the outside world. Everything happened in a blink, and Tang San's speed was simply shocking. Even the emperors outside, who were watching the persistent tribulation clouds with grave expressions, didn't know what to do. Who could have expected that at this moment, the hidden instigator from within the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain would voluntarily emerge? By the time they realized it, Tang San had already dived straight into the tribulation clouds. Inside the Hell Garden, Mei Gongzi couldn't help but cry out in shock at the sight. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was equally stunned. He had been on the verge of despair, feeling his heart bleed as each Fortune Lotus seed was consumed. When all the seeds were gone, the Celestial Fox clan's fortune would plummet to its lowest point, and he might even lose his Demon Emperor cultivation. But then the other party had left at this critical moment. Although half of the Fortune Lotus seeds had been consumed, at least half remained. This fortune would at least ensure the survival of the Celestial Fox clan and the stability of the Ancestral Court's fortune. Did he just leave? Did he succeed in his tribulation? But the pressure from the tribulation clouds is still increasing. With a swift movement, Tang San plunged into the tribulation clouds. With the momentum of his breakneck speed and body reinforced by the golden armor transformation, he forcibly broke through the bounds of the clouds. The plane was not truly intelligent, so it hadn't anticipated such a situation. And even if it had been as intelligent as the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, it would not have anticipated this. The moment he burst out of the tribulation clouds, Tang San's body acted like a black hole, frantically absorbing all the elemental energy in the air, elemental energy that was missing below, having been driven away by the tribulation lightning. In an instant, his golden form was surrounded by a myriad of colors. The tribulation clouds surged quickly, rushing toward his body. Tang San didn't pause. The wings of the golden rock on his back beat with full force as he unleashed the power of the dragon rock transformation to soar to the highest heavens. He streaked upward like a golden stream of light. The tribulation cloud surged behind him, carrying countless bolts of lightning. But Tang San's speed was beyond incredible. He applied every speed-enhancing ability he possessed, and with the immense physical strength of his immaculate golden body, he paid no heed to the impact of such speed. In almost an instant, he had soared several kilometers into the sky. The tribulation clouds pursued him relentlessly, but the smile on Tang San's lips only grew wider. He let out a long, exhilarated howl as if he was venting all the frustration he had accumulated since arriving on this plane. Crystalline was stunned as she sensed the change in Tang San. He actually broke out. What speed? At this moment, with the support of his 9 bloodline imprints, his speed practically rivaled that of an emperor. It was only now that Crystalline suddenly realized a crucial difference between Tang San and the emperors. The emperors, bound by their duty to protect the ancestral court, couldn't leave easily and had to find ways to resolve the tribulation. But Tang San was different. Though he was undergoing the tribulation, the fate of the ancestral court wasn't his concern. He could just run. Of course, it wasn't like people could just break out of the tribulation clouds and run away. Yet after enduring 17 strikes of tribulation lightning, Tang San had long since crossed the tribulation 10 times over, so there was no need for him to endure more of it. And now he was simply running, with the tribulation chasing after him. This bizarre scene was beyond imagination, yet it somehow made perfect sense. Tang San had never thought he could survive the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation. It was not something anyone could survive, simple as that. But if he couldn't win, why couldn't he run? He had already achieved his goal. Yes, the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation was endless, but only within the plane. In other words, on Phelan planet. But what if he just left the planet? Where did the tribulation's power come from? Certainly, its foundation came from the laws of the universe, but its power originated from the plane. Once the tribulation left the plane and lost the plane's energy support, could it still exist? So from the beginning, Tang San had a plan. Once he'd run out of options to fight, it was time to take flight. When his flight altitude exceeded 5,000 meters, the temperature in the air began to drop rapidly, and the air grew thin. But none of this could affect Tang San. His divine consciousness controlled his 9 imprints, continuously absorbing the sparse elemental energy from the air to replenish him. He was in excellent condition. As the saying goes, the sea is vast for the fish to leap in, and the sky is high for the birds to fly in. When the moment he broke out of the clouds, Tang San knew that he had succeeded. 1. Chinese proverb meaning that in a vast and open environment, one has the freedom to pursue their potential and aspirations without limitations. The entire tribulation process had been part of his plan. He had already tested the intensity of the tribulation multiple times before undergoing it, so his plan was based on that level of power. Tang San had thought through and simulated the entire process countless times. Only by using every available resource could he truly succeed in overcoming the tribulation. The tribulation clouds behind him began to show signs of instability, with their energy starting to decline. The farther from the core of the plane they got, the weaker the power of the lightning tribulation became. Tang San could even sense the growing fury within the tribulation clouds as their energy waned. But what good was anger? If he had no other concerns, then having completed the tribulation and stepped into godhood, he could manage short-distance interstellar travel using his 9 imprints and God King knowledge. He was still far from his former God King level, and it would be difficult, but he could survive. As long as he didn't return to the Phelan planet, the tribulation would be powerless against him. However, Tang San couldn't just leave. His departure at this moment was only to gain the ability to negotiate. As he went higher and higher, the air around him became too thin for normal beings to breathe, and the temperature plummeted. Looking down from 10,000 meters in the air, the ancestral court was barely visible, and everything seemed so small. The horizon appeared to be wrapped in a layer of white light, and above him was only a sky full of stars. This spectacular scene wasn't particularly special for the Crystal Demon Emperor. As the once strongest emperor, she had flown to this height before. By now, she fully understood what Tang San intended to do. He was breaking free from the tribulation's constraints. The moment he pierced through the clouds, gambling everything to escape the tribulation's range, he had already succeeded. The Crystal Demon Emperor's admiration for him grew significantly. This man truly did what others couldn't. He was an existence beyond her comprehension. But at that moment, Tang San unexpectedly stopped flying and instead hovered in the sky, turning to face the tribulation clouds pursuing him from below. At 10,000 meters, the surging golden tribulation clouds were barely half their previous size, but they still appeared solid. Without hesitation, they rushed toward Tang San. Silver light flashed on Tang San's body as he ascended another 1,000 meters. He could teleport at will while he was off the ground and free from the tribulation's pressure. With the aid of the spacetime lighthouse, even Mei Gongzi couldn't compare to him in terms of teleportation. Tang San's divine consciousness fluctuated as he activated the crystal transformation imprint, spreading the aura of the Crystal Demon Emperor. He then sent a thought toward the pursuing tribulation clouds. The Crystal Demon Emperor sensed that the thought conveyed to the clouds was, "How about we talk?" The tribulation clouds paused slightly but continued to surge toward Tang San. With another flash of silver light, Tang San ascended another 1,000 meters and sent another thought. "Don't push your luck." The Crystal Demon Emperor's heart twitched. Is this guy really trying to negotiate with the plane? Is the plane even smart enough for that? To her surprise, this time the tribulation clouds actually halted, hovering 1,000 meters away from Tang San. Is this really happening? The Crystal Demon Emperor was once again stunned. Hovering in midair with the sea god's trident in hand, Tang San coldly stated, "You can't catch me. If I decide to leave once I escape the atmosphere, there's nothing you can do. With my current abilities, I can already survive in space. Using the spacetime lighthouse in my hand, I can find another plane suitable for living. But if I do that, once I recover my former cultivation, I will return here. And when I do, you will be destroyed." Upon hearing Tang San's message, the tribulation clouds surged violently as if they were about to attack again, clearly enraged. Tang San calmly continued, "You think I can't do it? I can't destroy Phelan Planet? What a joke. As a former God King, if I couldn't even do that after regaining my full cultivation, I might as well give up. Moreover, I am not just a God King but the ruler of a divine realm. Once I use the spacetime lighthouse to return to my divine realm, I will come back with another couple of God Kings. Do you think this little plane of yours can resist that? As the planar ruler, you should know that everything I'm saying is true. You've seen the power of my divine consciousness." The surging tribulation clouds hesitated and actually stopped advancing. The Crystal Demon Emperor couldn't sense any thought being transmitted, but Tang San seemed to be able to. He used the Crystal Demon Emperor's aura because she was once the most powerful being on this plane. Such a being had to be closely connected to the plane itself. Without the plane's approval, she wouldn't have become so powerful or lived for so long. Tang San said calmly, "So now that we're here, don't we negotiate? The situation has already gone beyond your control, so why insist on killing me? Did you not like the gift I just sent you?" Upon hearing this, the raging tribulation clouds noticeably calmed. The pure fortune in the 9 lotus seeds was indeed a massive gift to the plane. These were made of the fortune that the Celestial Fox clan had painstakingly accumulated over 5 centuries. The dispersal of this fortune aided immensely for the overall adjustment of Phelan Planet. Of course, if all 18 lotus seeds were returned to the plane, it would mean a complete restoration for Phelan Planet, bringing the plane back on track, which would be even better. You might wonder why I didn't give you all of them? Because it wouldn't be appropriate. Although the demon continent now gathers the most luck and exerts a strong influence on the plane, if all that luck were suddenly stripped away, the continent would certainly face severe issues, leading to widespread devastation. That's not something I want to see. The reason he couldn't completely destroy the luck of the demons and nymphs right now was actually the close relationship between them and humans. Most humans lived alongside demons and nymphs after all. If chaos were to erupt on the demon continent, the vulnerable humans would be the first to suffer, becoming cannon fodder or even food. Therefore, while he was more than willing to weaken the demon continent's luck, he couldn't bring about its destruction just yet. Of course, he wasn't about to tell that to the planar ruler. "Now, can we negotiate?" Tang San said with a smile. The tribulation clouds seemed to calm down but began to compress inward, shrinking in size while the energy fluctuations within grew even stronger. "There's no need for that," Tang San said calmly. "I know you're gathering strength right now, and you might even be planning a sudden attack to destroy me, but that wouldn't benefit you much. In fact, it's only going to hurt you, because if I survive and leave, I will return for revenge. I understand that you don't want an outsider like me to achieve godhood on your plane, because I would become even more uncontrollable in the future. If I reach the level of a god king, I will be able to draw vast amounts of energy from your plane, potentially causing its destruction. So I can swear an oath to you right now as a deity. First, when I am ready to become a god king once more, I will leave Phelan Planet and return to my original plane. Second, I will never use my god king powers to harm the essence of your plane. This way you won't have to worry, right? What? You ask what's in it for you? Of course there are benefits. I must say, Phelan Planet is one of the most resource-rich planets I've ever seen. If it weren't, there wouldn't be so many emperors, and the entire plane wouldn't be so prosperous. But because of the sheer number of these emperors, things have become somewhat uncontrollable here. We're in a situation where they're actively influencing the plane, causing an imbalance. As the planar ruler, what is your greatest desire? All planes desire the same thing, right? To become a divine realm. Due to the constraints of the universal laws, it's incredibly difficult for a plane to become a divine realm. Even a resource-rich plane like yours faces this challenge. In fact, precisely because of your deep foundations, it's even harder to achieve this. However, this is exactly where I excel. The divine realm I come from was formed by the fusion of multiple divine realms, and has now reached the level of a 5-dimensional divine realm, touching the threshold of the 6th dimension. Even in the vast universe, it's one of the foremost existences. As the ruler of this plane, you should understand what this means. A 4-dimensional space can be called a divine realm, and a 5-dimensional space is an exceptionally powerful divine realm. However, it's more susceptible to the influence of universal laws. As the God King of such a divine realm, I know exactly what is required for a plane to evolve into a divine realm, and in this regard, I'm willing to assist you. You need an existence capable of guiding the balance of the plane and ultimately helping the plane evolve. Such an existence is almost impossible for you to cultivate on your own. The difficulty of plane-level evolution is simply too great. I'm actually very interested in Phelan Planet, and I have a very bold plan in mind. However, I can't reveal this plan now because if it is detected by the laws of the universe, it might be snuffed out before it even begins. But believe me, I swear on my divine seat that I sincerely wish to help you become a divine realm and work with you in the future, so that we can both achieve immortality within the universe. With your status, once you become a divine realm, you might surpass the 4-dimensional space and directly become a 5-dimensional divine realm, thereby controlling many mortal planes. I promise you this. After I return to my former world, I can send one of my descendants to your plane. They will grow here and eventually lead Phelan Planet to become a divine realm. Consider this my gift to you. I am already a God King, which might make you uneasy, but if a being truly grows within your plane and inherits the divinity I leave behind, they will be the guide for Phelan Planet's divine realm, and there will be no issues. Moreover, due to our blood ties, I will be even more supportive of Phelan Planet. I hope that in the future, our divine realms can connect and support each other. As the ruler of Phelan Planet with the status of your plane, you should understand what the greatest threat to a plane is. It's not other divine realms, but his will. As he spoke, Tang San pointed toward the sky. The tribulation clouds churned as if asking a question. Tang San was silent for a moment, then seriously nodded toward the tribulation clouds. After receiving his confirmation, the tribulation clouds seemed to freeze. After a long pause, the golden tribulation clouds, which posed a deadly threat to Tang San, suddenly dispersed, turning into a vast golden mist that spread down over Phelan Planet. The 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation dispersed. It wasn't until this moment that Tang San finally breathed a huge sigh of relief, a faint smile appearing on his face. A crystal light flickered as Crystalline's figure separated from Tang San. She now looked like a teenage girl about 13 years old. What did it ask at the end? Crystalline asked curiously. Tang San shook his head and said, I can't say. You'll find out in the future, but only if we return to my former world. Crystalline frowned for a moment, but then quickly smiled. Haha, we succeeded. I actually didn't think you would actually pull it off. I wonder how the old fox will react when he finds out. Tang San looked deeply at her and smiled. From now on I control my own fate, not the heavens. Do you believe that? I believe it. Crystalline replied without hesitation. So now, do you choose to continue following me, growing alongside me? Or do you wish to separate and return to being the Crystal Demon Emperor? If you choose to leave now and go back to your former self, that's fine. We can pretend we never had any connection. With your abilities, I believe it won't take many years for you to regain your former strength, perhaps even surpass it. As the ruler of the dragon race, not even the celestial fox could do anything to you. Nope, I'm not going back. I'll stay with you. You're someone who can negotiate with an entire plane. I have a feeling that by staying with you, I'll experience things I've never encountered before, see beings of different levels, and maybe even achieve immortality alongside you. From now on, Dad, I'm your real daughter. You better treat me well. Tang San's mouth twitched slightly as he said with some helplessness, Why are you clinging to me now? If you leave now, there won't be any problems. I can return all your power to you. Let me think. No, even if you try to kick me out now, I'm not leaving. Hee hee. With those words, the Crystal Demon Emperor transformed into a streak of crystal light, instantly merging into Tang San's body and completely hiding her aura. Tang San shook his head helplessly and then exhaled deeply. After so much preparation and facing countless challenges, he had finally returned to godhood. As he had said before, from this moment on, he controlled his own fate, not the heavens. There was nothing left on this plane that could stop him from becoming a god king once more. All he needed now was time and accumulation. His wings flapped behind him, and Tang San transformed into a streak of golden light, gliding toward the distance. His silhouette flickered with silver light and abruptly vanished. Less than 10 seconds after he disappeared, several figures flashed into the spot where Tang San had vanished. They all focused their senses on the lingering aura in the air, each with a peculiar expression. The sun-born nymph emperor looked at the undying demon emperor beside him. The tribulation clouds just dispersed? What the hell happened? Is that guy dead? The tribulation clouds definitely scattered, but it's hard to say whether that guy is dead or has left this world. What kind of power was that? It's really strange. Such a powerful lightning tribulation, yet in the end, it seems like it didn't cause any damage to the ancestral court. Even for these emperors, today's experience was full of strange elements. They couldn't quite understand what had happened, but everything seemed to be over. Let's go, we'll discuss it back at the court. The emperors had already scanned the vast space with their divine consciousness, but finding nothing unusual, they had no choice but to return. At this moment, the atmosphere in the ancestral court was somewhat strange. As the 9 heavens and 10 earths' great annihilation tribulation faded away, the various beings in the ancestral court gradually regained their ability to move freely. However, the intense fear instilled by that terrifying pressure did not dissipate. None dared to speak out or even inquire about what had happened. In their minds, the only thing capable of resolving such a sudden and mysterious crisis had to be the combined efforts of the dozen or so emperors. And events that could mobilize all the emperors were far beyond the reach of these lesser beings, so they did not even try to take a guess. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was on the summit of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, a mountain now noticeably shorter, with as much as a third of its mass gone for good. His expression was extremely grim, even somewhat pale, but deep in his eyes, there was a hint of relief. Mei Gongzi stood beside the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, her heart filled with anxiety. She had no idea what condition Tang San was in, but she was certain of one thing: Tang San was still alive. Now that the tribulation clouds had dispersed, did this mean Tang San had successfully overcome the tribulation? She was desperate to fly to his side and check on him. The reason she was so sure that Tang San was still alive was the connection between them through the Azura sword. Tang San could sense Mei Gongzi through the sword, and she, in turn, could sense that Tang San's aura was still present. This was also why Tang San had no qualms about leaving Mei Gongzi by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's side. Mei Gongzi had played a crucial role in breaking through the spacetime lighthouse's spatial folds. With this merit, and the fact that the tribulation process revealed the Crystal Demon Emperor but not the appearance of Tang San himself, and did not involve Mei Gongzi in any way, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had no reason to suspect any connection between them. Besides, the White Tiger Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor were both closely watching. Most importantly at this moment, the most pressing matter for the emperors was to discuss what had just happened. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had some explanation to give. Who would care about something as minor as Mei Gongzi's evaluation? One by one, figures descended from the sky, landing on the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Each of them bore a solemn expression. Although the emotions of the emperors varied, they all shared a common feeling, a sense of crisis. The terrifying tribulation they had just witnessed had truly frightened them. They all sensed that this tribulation was targeted at someone who hadn't yet reached godhood. It was a tribulation meant for ascension. Yet the destructive power within that tribulation was so intense that it could even harm the essence of these emperors. Even they could not face it directly. This was terrifying. And such power had been directed at the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Who could believe that the one undergoing the tribulation had nothing to do with the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor? Seeing the emperors descend, Mei Gongzi quietly moved to the side of the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at her, nodding slightly, indicating that she should stay behind him. Mei Gongzi exhaled softly, feeling a sense of relief as the tension and anxiety that had been gnawing at her heart began to dissipate, replaced by a strong sense that the world was not what she used to think it was. She had always regarded Tang San as a sort of encyclopedia, someone who had brought her countless strange and novel experiences. Yet today he had once again shattered her understanding. This man had managed to manipulate a dozen emperors as if they were stupid children, successfully overcoming a tribulation under their watchful eyes and then disappearing without a trace. It was nothing short of a miracle. Since she could sense the cold, questioning, and serious gazes of the emperors, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor would naturally not miss them. There was no doubt that, for the other emperors, the primary concern was the damage the tribulation had done to their essence. But even though it would take years, maybe decades to recover, they could recover. The Celestial Fox clan, on the other hand, had no such hopes. Half a millennium of accumulated luck had just vanished, returning to the plane. This was not just the purely personal cultivation of the Celestial Fox Emperor. It was the fruit of the entire clan's efforts under his guidance. The loss was indescribable. "I think it's about time you explain what's going on," the Sunborn Nymph Emperor said in a deep voice. In terms of cultivation, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and the Undying Demon Emperor were the most powerful among the emperors present. If they started to question him, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had no choice but to be honest. At this point, if he didn't reveal something, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. After all, this concerned the safety of the entire ancestral court. He replied bitterly, "If I told you I wasn't entirely sure what happened, you probably wouldn't believe me. So let me tell you what I do know. You all know that our clan controls the flow of fortune, and has been gathering it for the ancestral court, bringing prosperity to the entire demon continent and benefiting every race within the Empyrean Dominion and the Solstice Empire. The Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain is the core of this fortune, anchoring the ancestral court and allowing demons and nymphs to flourish, becoming the rulers of this planet. That is why, beyond the demon continent, there are no emperors. To gather this fortune, our clan has paid a great price. In any plane, fortune has two sides: luck and misfortune. Since most luck has been drawn to our demon continent, the corresponding misfortune must go somewhere. Some of it spreads across the rest of the planet, so while demons and nymphs enjoy prosperity, other races often face the trials of misfortune. However, we couldn't just spread all the misfortune to the outside, or our luck would also dissipate. So we kept some of the misfortune sealed beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain to attract luck. To prevent this misfortune from causing harm, Our celestial fox clan has isolated it in a small separate plane. That small plane is what you all know as the Hell Garden. The Earthshade Nymph Emperor furrowed her brow and said, "These things are all recorded in the history of the ancestral court. We're well aware. What we're asking is what happened just now." The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor nodded and said, "I said that just so you know where I'm coming from. The Hell Garden requires regular sacrifices to seal the misfortune, which is why the ancestral court's great beast fighting arena's life and death battles are held there. It appears to me that someone with ulterior motives used these battles to infiltrate the Hell Garden and forcibly undergo a tribulation there. The reason such a powerful tribulation was drawn is that this individual has created a transcendent bloodline." Upon hearing the term transcendent bloodline, the expressions of the emperors present changed. As emperors, they were well aware of what a transcendent bloodline represented. The term transcendent referred to transcending the confines of this very plane. In that moment, they understood why the tribulation had been so terrifying and violent. It was the plane trying to destroy something that surpassed its limits. They had been eyeing the celestial fox demon emperor with accusatory gazes, but at that moment they relaxed slightly. The sunborn nymph emperor drew a deep breath, then asked the question that was on everybody's mind. "Do you know which bloodline it was that became transcendent?" The celestial fox demon emperor replied gravely, "I only have a general idea. There were many complex bloodline changes. The person undergoing the tribulation actually manifested multiple bloodline auras, which could either be inherent to them, or something specially gathered for this tribulation. The attributes I sensed included time, space, immortality, and berserk rage, among others." The undying demon emperor narrowed his eyes. "By immortality, do you mean my clan's undying trait?" The celestial fox demon emperor confirmed. "Indeed. At one point during the tribulation, they used the Nirvana rebirth ability. Otherwise, they would have been obliterated by the lightning long ago." The undying demon emperor remarked incredulously, "But even with my clan's power, how could they possibly withstand that without being a god? I know I couldn't do that myself when I was at that level. Hell, I'm not sure I could do that now." The celestial fox demon emperor's expression grew even grimmer, and he nodded. "That's exactly why they chose the Hell Garden. They took advantage of the fortune my clan had accumulated for the ancestral court over the years. When the tribulation descended, they used this fortune as a shield, allowing it to disperse and return to the plane. This basically amounts to bribing the tribulation, slowing down the lightning and enabling them to withstand it." The white tiger demon emperor's jaw dropped. "Did you just say they bribed a heavenly tribulation?" The celestial fox demon emperor chuckled bitterly. "Hard to believe, isn't it? Before today, if someone had told me this, I would have laughed it off. But it all happened right before my eyes. I must say, that person undergoing the tribulation has to be an absolute genius among geniuses. I'm completely certain that they are unprecedented on the continent. Let me tell you, they used a different method to counter or mitigate every lightning strike. It was nothing short of miraculous." The sunborn nymph emperor asked, "So that's how they withstood the tribulation until they finally broke through and escaped? You think they survived?" The Earthshade Nymph Emperor interjected. "No, before that, you mentioned they created a transcendent bloodline. What kind of bloodline was it?" "Don't be hasty. Let me answer you one at a time. Now, as for whether he successfully passed the tribulation, I can't say for sure. I sensed incredible rage within the tribulation. Even if they bribed it with the fortune my clan accumulated, it wouldn't simply let them go. That tribulation was relentless. It aimed to obliterate that person to the last hair and drop of blood. There is a higher probability that they failed the tribulation. Otherwise, the tribulation wouldn't have ended so easily. As for the transcendent bloodline, it's more appropriate to say bloodlines. I sense two. Not one but two transcendent bloodlines?" The Earthshade Nymph Emperor said in disbelief. The celestial fox demon emperor nodded. "It's truly astonishing. Moreover, I believe that the two bloodlines were created with a very specific purpose. One of these bloodlines made that person's vitality incredibly powerful, and I believe reinforced their physique. I detected the auras of Skysplitter and Golden Mammoth within it." The two demon emperors' expressions changed. Without a doubt, if this transcendent bloodline bore someone's aura, It suggested a connection between that someone and the person undergoing the tribulation. The other emperor's gazes immediately shifted toward them, especially recalling the sky-splitting demon emperor's formidable display of power against the tribulation clouds. More eyes fell upon him. Though the celestial fox demon emperor hadn't explicitly stated it, every emperor present could guess that a commotion of this magnitude couldn't have happened without the backing of another emperor. The sky-splitting demon emperor glared. "Why is everyone looking at me? Are you suggesting I did this?" The sun-born nymph emperor suddenly smiled and said, "No, I don't think it was you." The sky-splitting demon emperor's eyes lit up. "That's more like it. It wasn't me. Even if it involved Golden Mammoth, it wouldn't be me." "Yeah, you don't have the brains for that," the Golden Mammoth demon emperor retorted. The sky-splitting demon emperor was momentarily stunned, while the Golden Mammoth demon emperor smirked and said, "You think he was complimenting you? He's just saying we don't have the brains to pull off something like that." The sky-splitting demon emperor's aura changed instantly, and he glared intensely at the sun-born nymph emperor. The sun-born nymph emperor ignored him and turned back to the celestial fox demon emperor. "What about the other transcendent bloodline?" The celestial fox demon emperor looked at him, paused for a moment and then said, "I sense the aura of extreme yin and extreme yang, and I am certain that this bloodline was a fusion of two bloodlines with yin and yang attributes." "What did you say?" The Earthshade nymph emperor's expression changed dramatically, and she instinctively looked at the sun-born nymph emperor. Both their auras seemed ready to erupt at any moment. The relationship between these two had always been somewhat delicate. They often seemed opposed to each other, but whenever the Solstice Empire faced a crisis, they would join forces immediately. Their combined power could even make the Crystal Demon Emperor cautious, even at her peak. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said gravely, "My senses are not wrong. It was definitely the aura of yin and yang, and their fusion was seamless. This fusion even birthed a strange energy, seemingly the very essence of the plane itself. The reason the tribulation could be withstood under such terrifying circumstances is because of this trace of the plane's essence. The tribulation didn't dare destroy it, and every time it made contact with that energy, the power of the lightning diminished greatly." "Impossible." The Earthshade Nymph Emperor's pitch suddenly rose, drawing even more attention from the other emperors. The emperors of the Empyrean Dominion instinctively gathered around the undying Demon Emperor, their gazes fixed intently on the two Nymph Emperors. "Please calm down," the Sunborn Nymph Emperor said, frowning deeply. "Everyone, she says it's impossible because we've tried it. In fact, I can tell you that the two of us have been researching the fusion of yin and yang for many years. As you all know, the yin-yang energy is the very foundation of creation. If we could fuse the yin and yang, we could harness that foundational energy, reach new heights, and even develop a new bloodline. There's no need to deny it. Who among you wouldn't want a transcendent bloodline? But our attempts have all failed. No matter the level of involvement, even with low-level clansmen, the fusion of yin-yang energy always fails, sometimes even costing lives. Despite this, we haven't given up and have continued our research, though we've made little progress." The Earthshade Nymph Emperor interjected. "Precisely because we've researched it so much, I find it impossible. Sunborn and I have tried countless methods over a full 1,000 years, and we haven't found a suitable path. How could this person have figured it out?" The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor sighed and said, "Indeed, it wasn't you too. I'm sure of that. But the presence of yin-yang energy is undeniable. I believe it was precisely because the plane's essence was at stake that the tribulation became so terrifying." "All right, no need to beat around the bush," said the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. "There's no way this could have happened without an emperor's support. Now everyone wants to know who has this kind of power. You control fortune. Did you sense anything?" The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor hesitated for a moment but then took a deep breath, seemingly making up his mind. "This is a serious issue, and I'd like to keep that to myself, but I can't. Yes, I sensed it. Not only that, I even had a brief conversation with that emperor." "Who was it?" the emperors asked almost in unison. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor took a deep breath, gazed in a certain direction and said solemnly, "That person is not among us here." At these words, the entire assembly fell silent, as if they'd been choked. Their gazes followed the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's eyes, which were looking at a certain sacred mountain. Crystal. It's crystal. When this answer dawned on the emperors, it almost felt obvious. If any emperor could cause such a commotion, then who else could it be but her? Only the Crystal Demon Emperor could have such power. The Crystal Demon Emperor was nearing the end of her lifespan. She had long been in seclusion and rarely appeared in the outside world. But occasionally her aura could still be felt, so they all knew she was there. And regarding this top powerhouse of the present age, every emperor present, including the nymph emperors, harbored a certain fear in their hearts. Back in the day at her peak, the Crystal Demon Emperor was undefeated. Almost every older emperor present had been beaten by her, including Sunborn and Earthshade, who had fought as a team and still faced defeat. Of course, back then their powers hadn't fully developed. Things would be different now. But even so, the Crystal Demon Emperor was unquestionably the strongest of her time, a figure all emperors had to revere. So, it was she who caused this world-ending tribulation. That explains everything. What's she planning to do? The Sunborn Nymph Emperor asked, his voice instinctively lowering a few notches. It was clear how much he feared the Crystal Demon Emperor. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor sighed and said, "Of course, she's trying to extend her life. Wouldn't you? She must have discovered a way to transfer her divine consciousness into a new body, cultivating a transcendent bloodline. If she truly manages to survive the tribulation." He didn't need to continue. The other emperors understood his implication. In any case, she held back and didn't completely disperse all the fortune. It seems that she still wants to protect the ancestral court. Otherwise, if she had gone all out, the fortune of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain would have been gone to the last drop, and the ancestral court would be in danger. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression was complicated. Even though so many emperors were present, when the instigator of this event, the Crystal Demon Emperor, was mentioned, he still felt a tinge of unease. He could never forget the feelings she had once stirred inside him. "Little fox, your ancestor said you have the qualifications to inherit his legacy, and has recommended you to be the next Celestial Fox Demon Emperor." A woman in a white gauze dress sat on the pillar at the center of the ancestral court's council hall. The little Celestial Fox looked up, staring at the stunning woman enveloped in crystalline radiance. For a moment he felt completely dazzled and captivated. He had grown rapidly, and his sense for fortune was unparalleled among his peers, yet when he looked at her, he couldn't even tell where her fortune began and where it ended. It was as if her fortune had transformed into a long rainbow, connecting heaven and earth. He would never forget that first glance. In that moment her image was deeply imprinted in his mind and heart. "What's the matter? Can't you even speak?" No, your majesty. The young Celestial Fox was filled with nervousness. Facing the ruler of the ancestral court, the strongest being of the era, with majesty and beauty like no other, his heart quivered. Ha. Looks like you're still a little virgin. Since your ancestor values you so much, hurry up and produce some kids. Alright, you can go now. Tell your ancestor I agreed. You're quite the shy little fellow, he. No matter when, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor could never forget the shock he felt the first time he saw her. Yes, it was a shock he felt all the way inside his soul. So, no matter the situation, he could never harbor hostility toward her. It was the same even though she stood on the opposite side, and had just ruined the fruits of his efforts of many centuries. Even now, he couldn't muster any enmity toward her, and when mentioning her, he even felt a bit cautious. But the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor wasn't the only one with such thoughts. The oldest emperor present was only around 2,000 years old, while the Crystal Demon Emperor was 1,000 years older than them. This meant that during their growth, from childhood to becoming emperors, they were all overshadowed by the brilliance of the Crystal Demon Emperor. There was an old rule in the ancestral court, established by the Crystal Demon Emperor herself when she personally ruled the court. Every emperor, after ascending to the throne, had to fight her before they could officially assume their duties. In reality, this was just a glorified way of getting beaten up. For the emperors, this was something they remembered vividly. But even though it was a truly painful lesson, it was much less of a pain than a lesson. The Crystal Demon Emperor's ability was replication. She could replicate their abilities and use them better than they themselves could. This allowed her to judge their potential more accurately than anyone else. and it also allowed them to see a path for further growth. Her guidance was an irreplaceable factor in the growth of these emperors. In other words, this demon emperor, who was 1,000 years their senior, could be considered their mentor in a sense. At this very moment, it seemed that this very demon emperor had turned against the entire ancestral court, all for the sake of extending her own life, leading to the current situation. Yet even so, the emperors could only look in the direction of the crystal sacred mountain and shrug. Could anyone truly harbor enmity toward her? Not a single one of them could bring themselves to speak against her. For a moment, the dozen or so emperors fell into silence. And just then, a beam of crystalline light suddenly shot up from the crystal sacred mountain. The entire crystal sacred mountain began to radiate light, and in an instant, the entire ancestral court felt the baptism of that brilliance. At the same time, within the ancestral court's council, a pillar of light shot up into the sky, as if responding to the radiance of the crystal sacred mountain. It generated a halo of blinding light that left no place for shadow. In the sky, under the crystalline light, a massive figure slowly emerged. The figure was so large that it blotted out the sun, its body stretching over 3,000 meters. It appeared to be made of translucent crystal that shone with coruscant light, and every scale on its body seemed to reflect the beauty of the entire world. Ruoa error! An exalted dragon's roar echoed through the ancestral court. In that instant, every single being within the ancestral court bowed down in reverence. They all recognized this creature as the mightiest being of the era, the omnipotent crystal demon emperor. But at this moment, this dragon, whose body length and wingspan both exceeded 3,000 meters, brought none of its oppressive aura. It slowly lowered its head, gazing down at the ancestral court below. Its eyes seemed filled with deep reluctance, but there was also a resolute determination. It nodded toward the emperors below. The next moment, its massive body began to crack like a shattered mirror. A crisp sound echoed within the divine consciousness of each emperor. Immediately after, the colossal figure in the sky completely disintegrated, transforming into countless crystalline lights that descended from the heavens, plunging into the pillar of light rising from the council hall. Within the council hall, the crystal celestial pillar, which was already over 500 meters tall, grew even further, surpassing all the other celestial pillars by a large margin, and burst forth with unparalleled brilliance. The 15 emperors stared in shock at this scene, fully aware of what the events before them signified. The celestial fox demon emperor's lips trembled as he murmured, "Crystal, Your Majesty, you have fallen." There could be no misunderstanding regarding the phenomenon they just witnessed. Only when an emperor knew that they were about to fall did they transfer their remaining power to their celestial pillar, imprinting their existence upon it eternally, and becoming a supporting force of the ancestral court. As the crystal celestial pillar rose taller than ever, the fortune of the ancestral court, which had weakened due to the depletion caused by the tribulation, seemed to stabilize once more. The previous sense of instability vanished, and the sky became clear again. However, from this moment on, there would be no more crystal demon emperor in this world. Even the omnipotent was forced to bow her head in front of the inevitability of death. An indescribable sadness instantly pervaded the ancestral court. In that moment, countless beings shed tears of grief. The ancestral court hadn't seen an emperor fall in countless years, let alone the fall of the strongest. And at the very moment the crystal demon emperor fell, the entire plane trembled in response. Mei Gongzi stood beside the white tiger demon emperor, gazing at the dispersing crystalline lights in the sky, witnessing the end of this era's monarch. For a moment, she felt a mix of emotions. But more than anything, she felt an urgent need to leave to find him. The crystal demon emperor's sudden fall, could it have something to do with him? Could it be that he didn't survive the tribulation? But why did the Azura sword not react? As the saying goes, concern leads to chaos. At this moment, her heart was a bundle of nerves, fraught with anxiety. "Mourn in silence," the celestial fox demon emperor said, adjusting his emotions. He lowered his head and sighed with deep sorrow. The sudden fall of the crystal demon emperor undoubtedly concluded everything that had happened before. In such circumstances, who could question anything anymore? No matter what she had done, she had already fallen and left no descendants behind. Who could they assign blame to, and what meaning would that even have? Moreover, she used her last strength to reinforce the crystal celestial pillar, ensuring it would likely never be surpassed in history, and ensuring the stability of the ancestral court. What was there to criticize? Whether she was right or wrong with her previous actions, her death seemed to be the best conclusion to everything before them. Even though the Celestial Fox clan had suffered greatly, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor couldn't bring himself to feel any hatred in his heart. All the emperors lowered their heads. Their emotions varied, but they all felt a sense of sorrow. The fox mourns the death of the rabbit, they say. Even someone as powerful as the Crystal Demon Emperor could not prevent her own demise. To them, this was naturally the result of a failed tribulation. In a cave somewhere far in the distance, a strange radiance filled the air as a figure silently emerged within an array of light and shadow. Golden light flickered across him, sometimes flashing like lightning, other times glowing in many hues, appearing very unstable. The patterns of light formed cracks that appeared and disappeared like the fractures on porcelain. Tang San put his hand on the ground to prop himself before sitting down cross-legged. In spite of his obviously dire state, his face could not be more relaxed. Although everything had gone according to his calculations and plans, and he had finally overcome the most challenging hurdle since arriving in this world, it was only now, after truly crossing it, that he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Crystalline's figure appeared before him, and she had a rather complex expression on her face. She looked like a perfectly normal human, with no trace whatsoever of that transparent and illusory feeling she used to give off. "The Crystal Demon Emperor has fallen," she said softly. Tang San looked at her deeply. "It seems you've made up your mind, no retreat? What retreat is there to have now?" Crystalline said bitterly. "When I followed you to godhood, my divine consciousness was completely anchored to you. I couldn't maintain things on the other side anymore. I dispersed my remaining power and merged it into the celestial pillar. If you go back to the ancestral court in the future, that power can still support you, consider it my fee. Also, my fall should serve as an explanation for the huge commotion you caused. Otherwise, they'd keep looking to see if the person undergoing tribulation succeeded. I suppose I covered your tracks." Tang San chuckled and said, "Is that how you talk to your dad? Show some respect." The Crystal Demon Emperor rolled her eyes. "I've lived for 3,000 years, and you still have the nerve to call yourself my dad." Tang San snorted. "If you want to factor in our previous lives, I don't even know how many millennia older I am. Calling me dad isn't a loss for you. Alright, enough talk. I need to stabilize my cultivation. The 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation was too overwhelming. The power of annihilation is still rampaging inside me. I need to quickly gather and fully absorb it before I can say I've truly completed the tribulation." Right about that. After passing such an unprecedented tribulation, I'm really curious. Just how strong are you now? I'm definitely still not as strong as an emperor, but I should be more than capable of protecting myself. My fall will allow for 2 ordinary emperors to appear, or perhaps 1 transcendent emperor. I believe the plane can bear that much, but you need to work hard. Don't forget what you promised me. You'll take me with you to your divine realm. I want to see what immortality really feels like." Tang San smiled and nodded. "Don't worry. Before the tribulation I wasn't really sure I could do that. But now I'm confident." "Alright then, hurry up and cultivate," Crystalline said. With that, she transformed into a ray of crystalline light that instantly merged into Tang San's body and disappeared. Tang San focused his mind and looked inward, sensing his condition. The power of his bloodlines had been baptized by the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation, undergoing a profound transformation. At this moment, the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor was seated at the center. The droplet of chaos energy had once again settled like a dewdrop upon a blade of blue-silver emperor grass, and it was this drop of chaos energy that was the most precious thing to Tang San. It was the source of the innate energy of the entire plane, which would greatly benefit his future cultivation and the restoration of his previous level. Floating around it were the other 8 bloodline imprints. Moreover, they did not fill the space completely, which indicated that Tang San could now integrate another new imprint. This tribulation was not just about achieving godhood for Tang San. He had also used the energy of the tribulation to perform some feats that would have been quite difficult otherwise. The most crucial of these was naturally the perfect fusion of the yin and yang energies into the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor. This was fundamental to Tang San's further development. Then there was the further refinement of the Spacetime Lighthouse. After undergoing the baptism of the tribulation, the Spacetime Lighthouse was now fully integrated with Tang San's Peacock transformation and Chronocroc transformation, making these two bloodline imprints closely connected with the Spacetime Lighthouse. Although neither had reached the level of a transcendent bloodline, the Chronocroc transformation had at least advanced to the first tier, while the Peacock transformation had also seen a significant boost. His control over both time and space had grown much stronger than before. The other bloodline imprints had also undergone tempering, experiencing varying degrees of enhancement. Then there was the metamorphosis of his sea of consciousness into a sea of divine consciousness. Before this, every time Tang San used his divine consciousness, it was gone for good. He had to painstakingly condense divine consciousness from spiritual power, an excruciatingly slow process. Even with the boundless faith energy of the sea, there was a limit to what he could do. But now things were different. In Tang San's sea of divine consciousness, the shadow of the sea god's trident had fully solidified. It was once more serving as the foundation of his sea of divine consciousness, just as it had in his previous life when it was a transcendent divine weapon. With it at the core, his divine consciousness was self-replenishing and, finally, during the tribulation, Tang San also perfected his immaculate golden body, not only reaching the peak but also transforming it into a divine body. In terms of physical strength, he could now be considered the best of the best on the demon continent. Even an emperor might not compare to him in terms of physique. If that weren't the case, the cracks on his body would not have been this superficial. The destructive force of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation wasn't something easily endured, much less retained inside the body for further refinement. After this transformation, he had truly shed his mortal body and attained godhood. In terms of energy level within this world, his power was equivalent to the peak of the 10th order, but compared to an ordinary demon or nymph king, he was many times stronger. Each of his bloodline imprints was equivalent to the peak of the 10th order, and each of his 2 transcendent bloodlines gave him the power of a great demon king. The combined power of his 9 imprints was no joke. This was Tang San's true strength now. Moreover, he had the combat experience of a god king from his previous life, and a profound understanding of various energies. The path to becoming an emperor would be smooth and straightforward. It was simply a matter of time. For now, the most important thing was to fully digest the tribulation energy and integrate the things he had gained. His internal energy began to circulate on its own, and the power of his bloodline surged within him, starting to repair his body. The immortal flame phoenix imprint radiated a golden red halo, working in conjunction with the yin-yang energy emitted by the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor. This was the best way to recover. The Ancestral Court's Council Hall. In a rare display, over a dozen emperors had gathered in the hall. After a brief discussion, they reached a consensus. A major event had occurred in the Ancestral Court, shaking all the beings within, and there had to be an explanation. What happened was that, led by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, the emperors had aided the Crystal Demon Emperor in attempting another breakthrough to reach a higher level and extend her lifespan. Unfortunately, they had ultimately failed. The Crystal Demon Emperor had fallen, and the Ancestral Court's Council would issue a eulogy mourning its former leader. Moreover, right before her fall, the Crystal Demon Emperor left all the power she had to the Ancestral Court and the Demon Continent. Her deeds would forever be remembered. The death of the Crystal Demon Emperor became the perfect explanation for the world-shaking events that had transpired. The position of Lord of Crystal City, once held by the Crystal Demon Emperor, would remain vacant for 100 years as a mark of respect. All of Crystal City's revenue would be handed over to the Ancestral Court, with a portion allocated to the 2 emperors without a main city, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. Crystal City was the largest city of the Empyrean Dominion outside the Ancestral Court. Who would govern it in the future depended on which emperor could demonstrate sufficient strength in the coming century. As for the other issues caused by the fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor, they would have to be addressed one by one. Demons were rather dismayed by this turn of events, but the nymph emperors of the Solstice Empire fared much better. The fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor, the strongest of the era, meant that the individual strength of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was now likely the greatest in the world. After all, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was not skilled in combat, and although the Undying Demon Emperor was not afraid of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, his strength was still slightly inferior. The net superiority of the Empyrean dominion over the Solstice Empire was thus gone. They still had one extra emperor, but had lost the strongest among them. This left the demon emperors with a sense of discomfort. But the events had already transpired, and the Crystal Demon Emperor had also threatened the future of the entire ancestral court for personal gain. The nymph emperors of the Solstice Empire weren't protesting about that, so the demon emperors also couldn't say anything. At the same time, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor officially announced that Mei Gongzi had passed her evaluation and was officially recognized as the Lord of Kali City. She was required to undergo 100 days of study in the ancestral court, learning its rules and principles, before returning to Kali City to assume her duties officially. Mei Gongzi's extremely challenging evaluation seemed insignificant compared to the other events that had just unfolded. Stability was now the most crucial thing for the Empyrean Dominion, which had just lost its leader. The competition between the Empyrean Dominion and the Solstice Empire was about to reach a fever pitch. It was not just the fact that they were now well balanced. The more important issue was that with the fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor, the vacant city lord position and where the new emperor would emerge became of utmost importance to both races. The extraordinary talent Mei Gongzi displayed during her evaluation was undoubtedly recognized by the demon emperors. Now, with the vacancy, her path to the top was clear. Even though the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor still harbored concerns about her, he could no longer prevent the Empyrean Dominion from supporting her. For the Empyrean Dominion, having another Peacock Demon Emperor emerge would be the best outcome. Given the talent Mei Gongzi had shown, she was unlikely to be a slow-growing emperor like the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. Rather, she was undoubtedly the kind that could reach a celestial pillar height of over 300 meters immediately and become a crucial asset for the Empyrean Dominion. After some discussion, it was decided that Mei Gongzi would remain in the ancestral court. The White Tiger Demon Emperor volunteered to personally mentor her. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor could no longer focus on Mei Gongzi's situation. His most pressing task was to stabilize the Hell Garden, ensure that the remaining 9 Lotus Seeds weren't going anywhere, and start working on restoring the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Thus, after the Ancestral Court Council meeting ended, he left immediately. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's troubles were truly painful. The decrease of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain and the instability of the Hell Garden would take time to resolve. Additionally, his own cultivation had been affected, and his control over fortune had been significantly impacted. This also posed a certain level of threat to his position as the head of the Ancestral Court Council. Fortunately, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor wasn't particularly interested in managing the Ancestral Court's daily affairs. Otherwise, there might have been a dispute. The White Tiger Demon Emperor led Mei Gongzi out of the Ancestral Court Council. Feeling the sunlight shining down from the sky, this demon emperor with powers that could reach heaven and earth couldn't help but sigh deeply, his expression complex as he said, "I never thought the Crystal Demon Emperor would fall just like that. It really stirs something deep inside." "Isn't that the truth?" bitterly replied the sky-splitting Demon Emperor, who had walked out behind him. "I still remember her majestic figure when she beat me up back then. It was from her that I learned what splitting the sky really meant. And now she's just gone. I don't even know." As he spoke, the sky-splitting Demon Emperor's gaze fell on Mei Gongzi, and he grinned. "Anyway, you look promising. If another emperor is to be born in the Empyrean Dominion, that'll have to be you. Take advantage of the fact that the Solstice Empire doesn't know how talented you are and work hard. Old White Tiger, if you can't handle it, hand her over to me. I can guide her too." The White Tiger Demon Emperor snorted coldly. "You wish. I wonder who it was that voted against her. And what if I did? She has human blood in her veins. In the future, if she wants to become an emperor, her bloodline will still be an issue, and you know that as well as I do. A presumptive emperor's evaluation is much more challenging than a city lord's. It's not just about having the strength. To gain the recognition of heaven and earth and become an emperor, one must be a pure demon or nymph." A cold gleam flashed in the White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes, a thoughtful expression crossing his face as retorted, "You don't need to remind me. With my granddaughter's talent, solving this problem will be no trouble at all. Let's go. With that, a white light flashed around him, enveloping both himself and Mei Gongzi as they shot toward the White Tiger Palace. The emperors all returned to their respective places, and the great turmoil in the ancestral court came to an end. As soon as they arrived at the White Tiger Palace, Mei Gongzi immediately said, "Grandfather Tang San." A burst of energy erupted from the White Tiger Demon Emperor, instantly silencing her. "Follow me. We'll talk later," he said. As he spoke, he strode into the White Tiger Palace. Mei Gongzi, realizing something, quickly followed him inside. The doors of the White Tiger Palace closed, and a chilling aura sealed off the palace, completely isolating it from the outside world. The White Tiger Demon Emperor led Mei Gongzi to his study. The large study was decorated primarily in black and white. It was elegant, and although luxurious, everything proved good taste. With a wave of his hand, the White Tiger Demon Emperor enveloped Mei Gongzi in a majestic aura of bloodline power, scanning her with his divine consciousness from head to toe. As his bloodline aura nourished her, Mei Gongzi immediately felt a warm sensation throughout her body, a sense of unexplainable restraint lifting, and her mind became much calmer. Good, no after effects. This time you could say you've benefited from misfortune by becoming a great demon king. You might very well be the fastest in history to advance from a demon king to a great demon king. In the coming days, you'll stay in the ancestral court to consolidate your cultivation. As for the history and rules of the ancestral court, they're easy to learn. You're too smart to have problems with such trivial things. Yes, Mei Gongzi responded respectfully, her mind now settled. The White Tiger Demon Emperor said in a deep voice, "Little Mei, from now on, you are officially Lord of Kali City. You heard what Skysplitter just said. If you want to become an emperor in the future, you must distance yourself from humanity. This is only natural. To gain the support and loyalty of demons, you have to see yourself as a demon. How could they see you as one of them otherwise? Let me tell you something. The ancestral court has long known about the human settlements you set up in Kali City. This is also why the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was so determined to stop your report. I don't know how you managed it, but the emperors who weren't supposed to support you chose to do so. Now that you've reached this point, you must think about your long-term future. Whether you become the Peacock Demon Emperor or the new White Tiger Demon Emperor, you can take care of humans, but that is after you become an emperor. For now you must be cautious. Do you understand?" Mei Gongzi knew the White Tiger Demon Emperor was looking out for her and nodded slightly. The White Tiger Demon Emperor continued, "Now you can tell me. Was that tribulation related to your boyfriend? Where is he now?" Celestial Fox mentioned the Hell Garden earlier, and Tang San disappeared from the White Tiger Hotel 3 days ago. I don't know what he did, but your emotions tell me that everything that happened earlier might have something to do with him. Mei Gongzi lowered her head slightly and said, "Grandfather, I don't know if it's related to him. I can't be sure. I don't know what he was planning to do, but I know that he passed the Crystal Demon Emperor's test and reached the top of the Crystal Sacred Mountain." The White Tiger Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes as he was struck by a realization. Before the Crystal Demon Emperor fell, besides facing that terrifying tribulation, she had done one other thing. She had cast a vote in favor of Mei Gongzi. "Are you saying he made some kind of agreement with the Crystal Demon Emperor?" the White Tiger Demon Emperor asked thoughtfully. Mei Gongzi replied, "He never told me, but the Crystal Demon Emperor supported me, and I don't believe it's just because I am a woman. Now that the Crystal Demon Emperor has fallen, I'm really worried about him. I want to go find him." "Where do you plan to find him?" the White Tiger Demon Emperor asked sternly. Mei Gongzi shook her head. "I can't say, but we have a predetermined meeting place, outside the ancestral court." "No," the White Tiger Demon Emperor said firmly. "You can't leave the ancestral court right now. Don't think that just because that fox is dealing with his Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, he won't be watching you. I'm sure he's keeping an eye on you. For 100 days, you must not leave the ancestral court. Whether Tang San is fine or not, you can't leave. If he's alright, won't he use the teleportation array? He'll naturally return to the White Tiger Hotel. If something's wrong, you can do nothing about it now. But nothing. Your safety is the most important thing right now. You've worked too hard to get to this point. I can't let you make a wrong move. There's nothing more to say, you'll stay here safely. If he returns to the White Tiger Hotel, I'll sense it and let you know immediately. Seeing her grandfather's resolute demeanor, Mei Gongzi realized that there was no point in arguing further. But she was truly anxious. Should I activate the Azura sword to let him sense me? No, I can't do that. What if he's in a bad situation? If he receives my alert and rushes to find me, he could end up even worse. Alright, stay in my study and cultivate. This is where I usually train. The spiritual energy here is the densest, right at the core of the White Tiger Sacred Mountain. Mei Gongzi took a deep breath. On the way to the White Tiger Sacred Mountain, she had somewhat calmed down. Now that she thought things through, she realized that the sword intent of her Azura sword hadn't shown any fluctuations at all. That meant Tang San was likely safe. If something had gone wrong, he would have used the Azura sword to warn her. Moreover, she felt a subtle connection with him. If he had truly died in the tribulation, she would have sensed it. Her grandfather was right. She couldn't let her concern lead to confusion, and she couldn't afford to lose composure. A huge event had occurred in the ancestral court, and the Crystal Demon Emperor's last appearance was connected to her evaluation. Even if the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor hadn't considered this, there was no way that no emperor thought about it. The fact that the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor required her to stay in the ancestral court for 100 days might well be related to this issue. The best thing for her to do now was to stay here and wait for him. Once she figured this out, her sense of urgency diminished. The White Tiger Demon Emperor saw that her complexion was gradually returning to normal and smiled slightly. To be honest, even I was surprised by how you managed it. When you eventually become an emperor, your city lord evaluation will surely become a legend in the ancestral court. Alright, get some rest. I have some matters to attend to. There will likely be some changes in the ancestral court and the two great countries, so I must prepare. Yes, Mei Gongzi replied respectfully, bowing to him. The White Tiger Demon Emperor turned and left. Mei Gongzi walked over to the white leather sofa and curled up on it, and as soon as she relaxed, a wave of intense fatigue swept over her. This day could be considered the most thrilling and dangerous one of her life so far. She had gone through battles under the scrutiny of many emperors, faced the events that unfolded in the Hell Garden, endured the terrifying tribulation, and witnessed the fall of the foremost emperor. It was indeed an experience worthy of history books. She couldn't reveal all the truth to the White Tiger Demon Emperor, but she knew that everything that happened in the Hell Garden was orchestrated by Tang San. He had used the commotion from his tribulation to help her succeed in her report. On the other hand, Mei Gongzi truly hadn't been aware that his plan involved the Crystal Demon Emperor. Now, thinking back on everything that had happened, it all seemed so unbelievable. How did he manage it? How did he get the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, and even the Tenebrous Demon Emperor to approve of me? They should have both been strongly opposed. They say the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor controls destiny, but this time, even he was outmaneuvered. Thinking of this, Mei Gongzi couldn't help but feel a strong urge. A desire to throw herself into his arms. The sense of security he gave her hadn't faded, just because he wasn't by her side. Instead, it felt as if he was always there, surrounding her. This feeling was truly wonderful. How are you now? When will you come to find me? After everything was over, Mei Gongzi would return to the teleportation hub near Black Dragon City to meet Tang San. After his tribulation, he would wait for her there while consolidating his cultivation. It seemed that everything was going according to plan, but for now, Mei Gongzi couldn't leave the ancestral court. As she pondered all that had happened, Mei Gongzi slowly fell into a deep sleep. She was truly exhausted. When Tang San awakened from his meditation, he had no idea how much time had passed in the outside world. The cracks and light patterns on his body had finally disappeared. The annihilation force from the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation had finally been worn away and absorbed into his bloodline imprints. His own blood had turned completely golden, and his energy had finally stabilized. He had reached the peak of the 10th order, one step closer to reclaiming his God-King throne. But the moment he opened his eyes, a strong sense of unease suddenly surged in his heart. Tang San couldn't pinpoint where this sense of unease was coming from, but it was exceedingly clear. As a former God-King who had now once again reached godhood, he understood that this was not just a random feeling, but a premonition. a subtle perception of his divine consciousness. With the added sensitivity of his discerning eye of heaven, this feeling of unease indicated that something untoward had happened. He knit his eyebrows, but then drew a deep breath and steadied himself. At critical moments, one must remain calm and composed and avoid panic. He glanced around. The cave was empty except for himself. This meant that Mei Gongzi hadn't come. She hadn't arrived here to meet him as they had agreed. Could something have happened to her? As soon as this thought crossed his mind, Tang San's heart tightened, and the sense of relief he'd felt from his breakthrough vanished completely. He instantly jumped to his feet, but then paused and chuckled bitterly. No, that was not it. According to their agreement, if Mei Gongzi encountered danger, she would notify him by activating the Azura sword. But aside from the time she'd used it during the evaluation, she hadn't activated it again, so she was probably safe. The reason she hadn't come to meet him was likely something else. At any rate, right now there was nothing more important than finding her. Without hesitation, Tang San stepped into the teleportation array. With a single thought, the power of time and space surged forth, and in the next instant, the teleportation array was activated, whisking him away in a flash. After breaking through to godhood, using the teleportation array was as easy as moving his arm. He no longer needed any materials for assistance. The space-time lighthouse was sufficient for controlling time and space, and Tang San's own energy expenditure was minimal. The restoration of his divine consciousness was indeed the thing he was happiest about after the tribulation. Although it was still far from what it had been in his previous life, divine consciousness was still divine consciousness. Some of the sensations from his past life had already returned, and in terms of utilizing divine consciousness, who in this plane could compare to him? In a blink, he was already in the teleportation array of the top-floor room in the White Tiger Hotel. He concealed his divine aura and quickly masked his presence as he stepped out of the teleportation array. The luxurious top-floor room, which the White Tiger Demon Emperor clearly didn't use all that often, looked exactly as it had when Tang San was last there. He walked out onto the balcony and gazed out at the ancestral court. He naturally had no idea what happened in the interim. Moreover, during his seclusion, he had been fully immersed in deep meditation in order to repair his body, so he also had no idea how long this interim was exactly. The only thing he knew was that crystalline had caused the Crystal Demon Emperor to fall completely. If he went to the council hall, he might gain some benefits from the Crystal Demon Emperor's pillar. However, it was clear that he couldn't go there now. If the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor discovered anything suspicious, it would be a big problem. After all, although he had broken through to godhood, he was still far from becoming an emperor, and his power was not enough to contend with the ancestral court. As far as he could see, the ancestral court seemed to have been completely restored. Everything appeared normal, at least on the surface, with no visible differences from before. After a brief moment of thought, he quietly released a small amount of his aura, but limited it to the confines of the loft he was in. He didn't have to wait long before a white shadow flickered and a powerful aura descended. As Tang San saw the White Tiger Demon Emperor, the Emperor's gaze also fell upon him. Their eyes met and Tang San smiled and bowed, respectfully greeting the Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor scrutinized Tang San from head to toe, his divine consciousness scanning him directly. Then he subtly trembled. The White Tiger Demon Emperor realized that despite the strength of his divine consciousness, scanning Tang San felt like peering through mist. He couldn't clearly discern Tang San's condition or the strength of his bloodline. The only certainty was that this boy was no longer mortal. He had successfully crossed the tribulation and ascended to godhood. That day, was it really you? The White Tiger Demon Emperor asked with a hint of doubt. Tang San thought for a moment and replied, yes and no. They all say it was the Crystal Demon Emperor trying to break through, or perhaps extend her lifespan, that caused the anomaly. But I know you were involved. When did you make a deal with the Crystal Demon Emperor? And what did you do for her? Tang San explained, I made a deal with the Crystal Demon Emperor when I first climbed the Crystal Sacred Mountain. She told me that almost no one could defeat 9 versions of themselves, but I did it. So she asked me to help hatch an egg, which I carried with me ever since. When I returned to the ancestral court with little Mei for her evaluation, I brought the egg back to her, and then she started her tribulation. I joined her in the tribulation, But before that terrifying lightning descended, I was already done with my own part and she sent me away. I don't know what happened afterward. I've been stabilizing my cultivation these past days. By the way, Your Majesty, how long has it been since the tribulation ended? The White Tiger Demon Emperor pondered Tang San's words, then instinctively replied, It's been over 40 days. Has it been that long? What about little Mei? How is she? Did she pass her evaluation? Tang San asked urgently. The White Tiger Demon Emperor gazed at him, understanding that Tang San's words were likely not entirely truthful, and the young man was withholding some key information from him. But given that this involved the Crystal Demon Emperor and his own tribulation, not disclosing everything was a matter of course. At least his explanation was reasonable and fit the events. It seemed the Crystal Demon Emperor really had tried to start over and even created a transcendent bloodline, but failed during the tribulation. No wonder he had sensed such overwhelming vitality from Tang San when they last met. That must have been the aura of the Crystal Demon Emperor. Now, Tang San appeared to have fully recovered, and his aura was only somewhat stronger than that of an ordinary 10th order being. Of course, he only saw what Tang San wanted him to see. Little Mei is fine. She's been in my palace, cultivating in seclusion. She had a stroke of luck amidst the calamity and broke through to the Great Demon King level. During this time she's been stabilizing her cultivation, and I gave her some guidance regarding White Tiger bloodline. She succeeded in her evaluation, but now she needs to spend 100 days in the ancestral court, learning everything about it. After all, she's now the true lord of Kali City. In the future you must assist her well. When she becomes an emperor, her position as city lord will truly be secure. With her talent and the vacancy left by the Crystal Demon Emperor, it shouldn't take long for her to have a chance. All the emperors have high hopes for her. So that's how it is. Hearing the White Tiger Demon Emperor's words, Tang San breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Mei Gongzi was safe, that was all that mattered. But what was the cause of the unease he felt earlier? It was strange. Your Majesty, may I go see her now? Tang San asked. Yes, I'll take you to her. She hasn't been able to fully focus on her cultivation. If you join her now, she might be able to concentrate better. The White Tiger Demon Emperor replied. Yes, Tang San agreed. As long as he could be by Mei Gongzi's side, he believed all his unease would vanish. With a wave of his hand, the White Tiger Demon Emperor enveloped himself in Tang San in a beam of white light, shooting toward the White Tiger Sacred Mountain. Tang San continued to use his divine consciousness to conceal his aura as he followed the White Tiger Demon Emperor, landing at the peak of the Sacred Mountain. The White Tiger Demon Emperor led him directly to the study's door, made a gesture toward him, and then turned to leave. This emperor clearly approved of Tang San. Otherwise he would never have allowed a human to interact with his granddaughter. In truth, the White Tiger Demon Emperor still couldn't fully understand why the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, the Dark Demon Emperor, and even the Undying Demon Emperor had chosen to support Mei Gongzi's report. Without the agreement of those emperors, even with Mei Gongzi's contributions to the ancestral court, she wouldn't have been allowed to pass. There seemed to be an explanation regarding the Crystal Demon Emperor. Her support was clearly due to her cooperation with Tang San. But to say that the support of the other emperors had nothing to do with him? The White Tiger Demon Emperor was not an idiot. Yet he still couldn't figure out how Tang San had managed it. He was very curious about this young human, and could sense that Tang San's talent wasn't inferior to Mei Gongzi's. Now that Tang San had reached godhood, he seemed quite suitable as a follower for his granddaughter. As he pushed the door open, Tang San immediately sensed Mei Gongzi's presence. Mei Gongzi sat cross-legged in the cultivation room. Her silver gown was neatly spread around her on the floor, and silver light radiated from her, making her look like a dazzling silver lotus. After ascending to the Great Demon King level, her aura had changed once more. She appeared even more holy and noble, and her space attribute bloodline was enhanced, which gave her an even more mysterious aura. With a slight sweep of his divine consciousness, Tang San could sense that Mei Gongzi was in perfect condition. Her physical state, blood flow, and divine consciousness were all at their peak, indicating that she had made significant progress during this time. This discovery put Tang San's mind at ease. As long as she was safe, nothing else mattered, even if the world were to collapse around him. Tang San didn't hide his aura, and in the next moment, Mei Gongzi opened her eyes. Their eyes met, and Mei Gongzi's somewhat dazed gaze landed on the familiar smiling face. In the next moment, she let out a sharp cry and flew out of the cultivation room, throwing herself directly into Tang San's arms. Feeling her delicate body like a fledgling returning to its nest, along with her warmth and fragrance, Tang San felt as if his heart was filled to the brim. No matter how many hardships or pains he had endured, as long as she was with him, none of it mattered. Holding her close, Tang San's face softened into a gentle smile. He pressed his face against her hair, greedily inhaling her scent. Reuniting after a tribulation. What could be more wonderful than this? Tang San and Mei Gongzi held each other in silence, without any questions or words. At this moment, all doubts were unimportant. As long as they were both safe, the worst had passed. The atmosphere in the study gradually warmed, and Tang San slowly lowered his head, seeking her lips. Before he could make a move, she had already wrapped her arms around his neck, offering her lips to him. It was like steel striking flint, the spark that truly ignited the flame within. They kissed passionately, as if trying to release all the fear and anxiety they had felt over the past few days in this single moment. They lost all notions of time and space. It was only when Mei Gongzi's breathing became slightly labored that they finally pulled apart. As their lips parted, a blush spread across Mei Gongzi's cheeks. She couldn't bring herself to look at him. Instead, she lowered her head and rested it against his chest, her arms still tightly wrapped around him. Tang San gently stroked her long hair and said softly, "It's over, it's all over. From this moment on, we will never be apart again. No one will ever be able to hurt you. I will protect you with everything I have. Now, I finally have the ability to do so." Mei Gongzi murmured softly. At this moment, she just wanted to hold him, forgetting about being a city lord or becoming an emperor. As long as they could be together, nothing else mattered. As long as he was by her side, she felt safe, as if she had someone to rely on. At that moment, a divine consciousness suddenly intruded, startling both of them. Without a doubt, the divine consciousness belonged to the White Tiger Demon Emperor, and it seemed to be a reminder. In the next instant, a flash of white light signaled the arrival of the White Tiger Demon Emperor in the study. Tang San and Mei Gongzi stood side by side, and the blush on Mei Gongzi's face had not yet faded. When she saw her grandfather, she shyly lowered her head even further. The White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at her, then at Tang San, and couldn't help but sigh softly. "Sit down, I have some things to say to you," the White Tiger Demon Emperor said, gesturing toward the sofa. Tang San and Mei Gongzi followed his instructions and sat down on the sofa. The White Tiger Demon Emperor sat down across from them. "To be honest, many things in your evaluation went beyond my expectations. Even someone like the Celestial Fox couldn't control everything. I have to say you two are quite impressive and very lucky. I've had many questions on my mind. Now that the two of you are together, you need to give me some answers." Mei Gongzi looked at Tang San, who nodded at the White Tiger Demon Emperor and said, "Are you asking why so many emperors supported little Mei?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded and said, "That's my first question. I know about your agreement with the Crystal Demon Emperor, so her support for little Mei is understandable. But what about the others? Sword Saint is easy to explain. Since you returned his clan's sacred artifact after the competition, it's only natural he helped you. But what about Crystal Phoenix, Tenebrous and Undying? They were the ones who should have opposed you, perhaps even standing directly against you. Why did they ultimately choose to support you?" When Celestial Fox mentioned that she needed the support of 6 emperors to pass, I never imagined she'd have a chance. But in the end she did. Thinking back to the expression on Celestial Fox's face at that moment still brings me a bit of satisfaction. That guy usually acts so smug and omniscient. It's rare to see him caught off guard. So pray tell, did you have a hand in all that? As he spoke, his gaze remained fixed on Tang San. Tang San nodded slightly. "I did." He paused briefly and then turned to look at Mei Gongzi. Mei Gongzi gave him a questioning look. Tang San took her hand and said, "What I'm about to tell you is related to your true origins. So no matter what, try not to get too emotional, okay?" Mei Gongzi was stunned. "My true origins? What's that supposed to mean?" What are my fake origins? Tang San held her hand and said, "We didn't tell you earlier because we were worried about how it might affect you emotionally. But now that your evaluation is over, it's time for you to know the truth. It's also the reason why some of these emperors were willing to support you." The White Tiger Demon Emperor frowned. "What are you implying? The Peacock Great Demon King was not your biological father." "What?" Mei Gongzi nearly jumped off the sofa, looking at Tang San with utter disbelief. Tang San tilted his head and shrugged helplessly. "Yes, this was something the Peacock Great Demon King told me personally before he died. Because of the circumstances, he didn't tell you at the time. You can confirm this with your mother when we return. She can tell you the details." "She's not that peacock brat's daughter? Then whose daughter is she?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor was already growing impatient. "Who was his granddaughter's father?" "Your Majesty, you know more than us about Aunt Suqin's past, right? Back then, the one she loved wasn't the Peacock Great Demon King." "It was." The White Tiger Demon Emperor's pupils contracted. "Lin Shima." Mei Gongzi was a bit bewildered. The name Lin Shima was entirely unfamiliar to her. Tang San softly explained, "That would be the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor." In an instant, Mei Gongzi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She immediately understood what Tang San meant. Tang San sighed softly and said, "The truth is, Aunt Suqin and Lin Shima, who is now the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, were deeply in love and had pledged themselves to each other. Later, Aunt Suqin became pregnant with you, but Lin Shima was offered a chance to become an emperor and was forced to temporarily part from her in order to do so. At that time, Aunt Suqin didn't dare return to face the White Tiger Demon Emperor because she was expecting, so she ran away on her own. During that period, she encountered complications with her pregnancy and was saved by your supposed father, the Peacock Great Demon King. But when he did that, he set a condition. Aunt Suqin had to marry him and replace your Phoenix bloodline with his. He used his own bloodline to wash away the Crystal Phoenix blood in you, making you his daughter. Due to the circumstances, Aunt Suqin agreed to the Peacock Great Demon King's terms in order to ensure your survival. She became his wife in name only, and you inherited the Peacock Demon clan's bloodline. But in reality, your biological father is Lin Shima. Aunt Suqin probably agreed to the Peacock Great Demon King partly to get revenge on Lin Shima. After all, he had abandoned her for his ambition to become an emperor, leaving her to suffer greatly. When Lin Shima returned home after acquiring that cultivation opportunity, he found that his lover had married his enemy. Naturally, he was furious and focused on his cultivation, eventually breaking through to become an emperor. Then, he began exacting revenge on the Peacock Great Demon King and the entire Peacock Demon clan. The Peacock Great Demon King's plan was for you to recognize him as your father, inherit the strongest bloodline of the Peacock Demon clan, and become its leader. He had long foreseen that neither he nor the Peacock Demon clan could stand against the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor in the future, and that this could lead to the complete extinction of the clan. So, he devised this strategy to reveal to Lin Shima at the last moment that you were his biological daughter. This way, Lin Shima would have no reason to harm you. Your position as the leader of the Peacock Demon clan would be secure, at least as far as the Phoenix race was concerned. I have to admit, the Peacock Great Demon King was a schemer among schemers, as Tang San explained. Mei Gongzi's eyes slowly widened, betraying the massive shock she was feeling. She never imagined that her actual story would be foolish, foolish, foolish. The White Tiger Demon Emperor could barely contain himself. That girl is an absolute idiot. Why did she run away when she was pregnant? As her father, couldn't I protect her? What was she running from? Me. If I had known the truth, I would have beaten Lin Shima to death myself. She suffered so much because of this. So this is how it was. And that scoundrel Wang Qing dared to scheme against my daughter like that. If he wasn't already dead, I'd fucking kill him too. As he spoke, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce light as he looked at Tang San. Boy, you're saying Wang Qing was a schemer, but you're no better. I warn you, if you ever try to scheme against my granddaughter, I'll turn you into dust. Tang San couldn't help but smile bitterly. How could the old tiger shift targets like that? Rest assured, my feelings for little Mei are as clear as spring water. No matter what, I will always protect her. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's fierce expression softened slightly. Humph. Continue. Tang San gently stroked Mei Gongzi's hand, comforting her as she was overwhelmed with emotion. When Lin Shima learned the truth, he was filled with mixed emotions. He felt deeply guilty toward little Mei and her mother, vowing never to invade Kali City again. He told the Peacock Great Demon King that he had won, and Lin Shima had lost completely. But it was a loss he was happy about because it meant that his lover had never betrayed him, and that he had a daughter. Who's his daughter? Mei Gongzi suddenly said in a trembling voice, her tears uncontrollably flowing down. Tang San quickly comforted her. Okay, you're right, you're not. Don't be sad. This is all in the past. It's not something we can control. Mei Gongzi continued to shed silent tears, her lips pressed tightly together. Tang San turned to the White Tiger Demon Emperor and said, "So when it came time for little Mei to report in, I didn't have to do anything. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor was going to support her. Whatever happened." "That makes sense." The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded. "But what about Tenebrous and Undying?" Tang San replied. "The Tenebrous Demon Emperor's situation is a bit special. Back when little Mei, the Peacock Great Demon King, and I were returning after the Ancestral Court Elite competition, we were pursued by the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. Have you heard of the Sea God?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. "Is there really a Sea God?" "Of course there is. That time, the Sea God's divine power descended to save us and suppress the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. The Sea God could have killed him then and there, but he did not. Instead, he forced the Tenebrous Demon Emperor to swear a vow. He would keep his life, and in return, he would vote in favor of little Mei." The White Tiger Demon Emperor frowned. "What's your relationship with the Sea God?" Tang San replied, "I can be considered the inheritor of the Sea God. In truth, the Sea God wasn't an emperor, and there isn't anyone taking up that position right now. But I acquired the Sea God's legacy by chance. If I can one day become an emperor, I would likely be known as the Sea Emperor. The most valuable part of the Sea God's legacy is a fragment of his divine consciousness. I used this divine consciousness to repel the Tenebrous Demon Emperor and force an agreement with him." "All right. And what about the Undying Demon Emperor?" The way the White Tiger Demon Emperor looked at Tang San began to change. What had seemed truly unbelievable moments before now seemed perfectly logical in light of his explanations. It turned out that everything had indeed been orchestrated by him. Tang San continued. "Once the blood relationship between the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor and little Mei was confirmed, the Undying Demon Emperor was a lot easier to convince. Don't forget, both the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor and the Undying Demon Emperor are emperors of the Phoenix race." The White Tiger Demon Emperor still found it hard to believe. Undying has always been close to Celestial Fox. Could such a blood relationship really make him change sides? Tang San replied, "Under normal circumstances it wouldn't be enough. However, the Undying Demon Emperor's support must have been based on the hope he saw in little Mei. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor must have arranged for her to face off against a powerful member of the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan during the first trial. Didn't he? When little Mei won, she proved herself. A being who had only recently ascended to godhood managed to defeat an experienced god of the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan. And that skill and potential were witnessed firsthand by the Undying Demon Emperor. More importantly, although little Mei appears to have the bloodline of the Peacock Demon clan, her roots are still with the Phoenix race. Her body carries the blood of the Phoenix race. So, if she becomes an emperor in the future and regains the Phoenix bloodline, what would happen? The Phoenix race would become stronger than ever before, with 3 emperors from one race and the addition of Kali City. Although little Mei and the Phoenix race can be considered enemies right now, once the truth of her lineage is revealed, and if the Phoenix race makes sufficient concessions, why couldn't they win her over? You know what they say, blood is thicker than water. So I judged that as long as little Mei passed the first hurdle, the Undying Demon Emperor would likely be persuaded by the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor and his own judgment to support her and cast a favorable vote. It's not for any family love, but for the possibility of having 3 emperors in the same race. As he listened to Tang San's analysis, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's mouth twitched slightly. "Cunning as a fox. That old fox has nothing on you. Your judgment was on point. You're right. Everything happened just as you predicted. Now that I think about it, I remember seeing Crystal Phoenix look at Undying before he cast his vote. So that was the reason. It was all part of your calculations. Huh. Tang San looked at Mei Gongzi, understanding that it would take time for her to accept that the Peacock Great Demon King wasn't her father, and that her real father was responsible for her foster father's death. Thankfully, he had something that could soothe her a little. Little Mei, do you remember the promise I made to you before? Tang San asked softly. Mei Gongzi looked at him with tear-filled eyes and asked, What are you talking about? Do you remember when the Peacock Great Demon King fell? I found a way to preserve his divine consciousness. I've become a god now, and I'm fairly confident that I can help him resurrect and bring him back to life. Although his cultivation will be diminished, he should be able to live on. While his kindness to you was calculated, he did raise you and taught you to become who you are now. So I'll help him come back to life as a way to repay him for that. But since he's also been using you as a tool, once he is revived, you won't owe him anything anymore. Whatever you do after that will be your decision. Hearing this, a glimmer of light returned to Mei Gongzi's eyes. As for the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, whether or not you acknowledge him as your father should depend on your mother, and whether she's willing to forgive him. You can ask her when we return. Okay? Mei Gongzi nodded lightly. Her mind was still a bit chaotic, but thanks to Tang San's guidance, she felt somewhat better. Your Majesty, is there anything else you'd like to ask? Tang San inquired, turning to the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor gazed deeply at him and said, Of course, there are more things I'd like to ask, but I suspect you won't answer all of them. If anything, I'm surprised you even told me this much. Tang San smiled and said, You're little Mei's grandfather. Aren't we family? The White Tiger Demon Emperor waved his hand and said, That's what I wanted to discuss with you. If you truly want what's best for little Mei, the most important thing when you return is to focus on dehumanizing her. The main reason this evaluation was so tough was actually little Mei's human bloodline. Otherwise, with the support of Celestial Fox, it would have been a mere formality. In the future, if she wants to become an emperor, she'll need to pass yet another evaluation and be acknowledged by the entire ancestral court. If her human bloodline is too evident and she still considers herself human, it will be impossible for her to pass, and she won't be allowed to become an emperor. So if you truly want what's best for her when you return, you must work hard to eliminate her human traits, and make sure she distances herself from humans. And there's also the problem with you. If I were to forcibly separate you two, little Mei wouldn't agree. I can accept you being with her, but you must be behind her, not next to her. You can't appear in public, and no one should know that she has a human partner. In fact, if possible, you should transform your bloodline, and make yourself more like a demon. That way you can go further together, and she'll have a real place in the ancestral court, maybe even ascend to the top. Her potential makes this possible. Hearing the White Tiger Demon Emperor's words, Tang San couldn't help but frown, while a stubborn light flashed in Mei Gongzi's eyes. I refuse. I am human, I've always been human. Humanity is at the core of my bloodline. Mei Gongzi retorted defiantly. Nonsense! The White Tiger Demon Emperor roared, cutting her off. What's so good about being human? Humans are weak, nothing more than slaves. Whether it's the Peacock Demon Clan, the White Tiger Clan, or the Phoenix race, which one isn't 100 times more glorious, 1,000 times more noble than humans? How can you be so blind? Humans are numerous, but the ancestral court will never allow a human emperor to emerge. The settlement you've established near Kali City has caused significant dissatisfaction within the ancestral court. What do you think you're doing? Leading a human rebellion? The ancestral court could wipe out all of humanity with a snap of its fingers. If you truly care about humans, you should distance yourselves from them and avoid causing trouble. That way, even as slaves, the human race might at least survive. Tang San frowned deeply, as the unease he had felt in the cave resurfaced. Your Majesty, we are humans, and that's an undeniable fact. In the hearts of all the demon and nymph clans within the ancestral court, is it true that we humans will always be mere slaves? Has this idea become so deeply ingrained? Can't we coexist peacefully and treat each other as equals? That's impossible. The White Tiger Demon Emperor waved his hand dismissively. The true rulers of the demon continent can only be demons and nymphs. All other races are merely slaves and vassals. Do you really think humanity could ever equal demons and nymphs in status? That's nothing but a fool's dream. Suddenly, a light flashed in Tang San's eyes, and he sprang up from the sofa, startling even Mei Gongzi beside him. Tang San's gaze burned as he stared at the white tiger demon emperor, his eyes radiating cold light. Did you attack the human settlement near Kali City? Mei Gongzi paled, and her gaze turned to the white tiger demon emperor. Grandfather. The white tiger demon emperor narrowed his eyes, staring at Tang San with a cold, chilling gaze. His divine consciousness surged forth, pressuring Tang San. Yes, your so-called human settlement has been razed to the ground. What are you going to do about it? That was the condition Celestial Fox set for allowing Little Mei to pass her evaluation. It felt as though a thunderclap had exploded in Tang San's divine consciousness. He finally understood why such intense unease had been brewing in his heart. So this was it. The human settlement had been destroyed. Although most people had already been relocated to the islands, there were still tens of thousands living there. That settlement was something they had painstakingly built, a place where they believed they could finally live in peace. Mei Gongzi's face turned ashen in an instant, and she stood up as well. Her voice trembled as she asked the white tiger demon emperor, "Razed to the ground? And the people? What about the people?" The white tiger demon emperor responded coldly. "Naturally, they've been reduced to dust. Since you couldn't make the decision, I made it for you. That issue has been resolved. When you return, focus on managing Kali City properly, as I've advised you. Embrace your identity as demons. Stop thinking of yourselves as humans." "Are you the one who did that?" Tang San's voice suddenly turned icy cold. He looked at the white tiger demon emperor, his gaze sharp as a blade. The white tiger demon emperor was startled to realize that the divine consciousness he had been using to suppress Tang San now had no effect. Tang San stood tall, as if he wasn't even feeling it. "So what if I am?" The white tiger demon emperor replied coldly. Tang San's eyes turned golden in an instant. "No matter who it is, a blood debt must be repaid in blood." As he spoke, his divine consciousness exploded forth, shattering the white tiger demon emperor's oppressive force in an instant. A violent aura erupted from Tang San, and his power surged dramatically. Behind Tang San, a swirling black and white light appeared, exuding a terrifying aura. It was the fusion of yin and yang, a power of unmatched intensity. 8 different lights surrounded the black and white yin-yang symbol, illuminating Tang San. His divine consciousness instantly merged with the black and white light, and a drop of crystalline blue fell, transforming his divine consciousness into a tangible blue aura that completely sealed the study. Even the white tiger demon emperor, with his immense power, felt suffocated. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. Although he had a feeling that Tang San was hiding his true strength, he hadn't expected it to be at such a level. The key issue was that the white tiger demon emperor couldn't quite grasp the extent of Tang San's power. It was unclear. At the same time, the bloodline aura Tang San now exuded was so overwhelming that it created a sense of pressure on the white tiger demon emperor. This was clearly bloodline suppression, a transcendent bloodline. He clearly remembered that the celestial fox demon emperor had mentioned that the crystal demon emperor had triggered a heavenly tribulation while attempting to harness a transcendent bloodline and ultimately perished. He also knew that Tang San had a transcendent bloodline himself, but it was completely different from this one. So how is this possible? Right, this is yin-yang energy. This is definitely the yin-yang bloodline that Celestial Fox was talking about. It's what Crystal used to fight against her tribulation. She fell, but he survived, and it seems he has inherited this transcendent bloodline. For a moment, the white tiger demon emperor was so shocked that he forgot Tang San was actually suppressing him. In the next instant, Tang San extended his left hand, palm facing up, and a pagoda radiating white light emerged from his palm. In an instant, time and space distorted, and everything around them became an illusion. The white tiger demon emperor felt as though his thoughts were slowing to a halt. Then he saw the surging purple light in Tang San's eyes, and in that instant, his mind went blank for a brief moment. A sliver of divine consciousness was forcibly extracted by the temporal tower, and a scene appeared before Tang San and Mei Gongzi. 2 figures were suspended high in the air. One of them was the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The other was the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, his expression grim. Below them was a place very familiar to both Tang San and Mei Gongzi, the human settlement next to Kali City. White light surged in the eyes of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, and terrifying waves of divine consciousness burst forth, accompanied by an intense bloodline aura. In the sky, 9 massive fox tails fluttered in the wind. Terrifying pressure descended from above. In the next instant, everything on the ground was reduced to dust, leaving behind a massive crater. There were no screams, no panic, because everything had ended in a split second. It was over just like that. Do you fucking want to die? A furious roar erupted, and a terrifying killing intent burst forth, scattering away everything in its wake. Tang San let out a muffled grunt and took 2 steps back. The White Tiger Demon Emperor had already risen from his seat, his entire body emanating an almost palpable murderous aura. The terrifying killing intent was entirely focused on Tang San.